The Browns, they're putrid. They're the worst team in the NFL.
The 2024 season is over.
Lamar Jackson can't win the playoffs. He'll win a third MVP, though, so that's great.
Drew Sample is the most important piece of the Bengals offense next year.
Go Joe Burrow. He deserves to be MVP. I wish he was the Browns quarterback. Kind of mean that.
If you're looking for the most reactionary, silly, and unserious show on the internet, then you're home. Live from Hamilton, Ohio, it's Off the Bench by Chatterbox Sports on 1410 ESPN Radio.
All right, we're off and rolling here on a Wednesday. Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers, and only 5 minutes late today. And that's, that's
Which is actually on schedule.
Time.
Yeah.
This is, it's on time, but we had, Fat Joe performing before the first pitch. We had a lot of entertainment before. But guys, good morning. How are we doing today?
I think he just called us Fat Joe.
I think he did. It's pretty disrespectful.
No.
We are not disrespectful.
It's pretty disrespectful.
No.
This was going to be a fun show.
Yeah, we're already off to a bad start. Last time I worked remote, I pissed Elliot off. We were insulting one another. It's going to be an insult-free Wednesday, at least moving forward.
I don't know if I can.
You just started the show calling us Fat Joe.
I didn't.
I don't want to promise anybody that I'm not going to yell at you. I don't. That seems like it would, like nobody would tune in if there was at least a little bit of a chance that one of us would yell at you.
I mean, if we assured this chat that there would be no yelling at Kenner today, I think they would all leave.
They would all leave, and that would be no fun.
It's a 2-on-1 handicap match, and sometimes 3-on-1 when Casey chimes in. So there you go.
That's right.
But we're off and rolling today. We'll get to Elliot's headlines coming up here in a second.
Can't wait.
I know you guys saw what happened with the Colts yesterday with the announcement of what they're doing with Anthony Richardson. And it's not just what they're doing with him. We'll get to it. It's not just what they're doing with him. That's the problem. It's what's coming out of this as far as what scouts are telling college football quarterbacks right now as far as what the expectation is when they get to the NFL. So we'll talk about that around the corner, a little buy or sell action as well. And yesterday we were debating what the official halfway point of the season actually is. Like, we're 8 weeks in. I'm going to treat it as the halfway point, I guess. But 8 weeks in, who's the MVP front runner? We'll discuss all of that coming up and more. It's Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers. But let's get things rolling. We'll start with Elliot's headlines.
Oh.
Elliot loves three things: Joey Votto, David Bell, and leading off the bench with top headlines.
That's right. I do like those things, kind of. I mean, I don't really like David Bell anymore, but he's fine. I don't wish anything. I don't wish against David Bell. I don't wish anything against him.
He's not on the list.
No, he's not on the list. There's no list.
That's the most important thing about the list.
There's no list.
Is that there's no list.
There's no list.
Of course.
NBA news. The Nuggets, they beat the Nets 144-139 in overtime. Nikola Jokic, he put up 29 points, 18 rebounds, 16 assists. The Warriors, they blew out the Pelicans 124-106 without Steph Curry. And the Mavericks and Kings, they also won games last night, but who really cares? World Series, the Yankees, they poured on the Dodgers 11-4 for their first win in the series. They now trail 3-1. Freddie Freeman hit his fourth home run of the World Series, while Will Smith hit his third. Anthony Volpe hit a grand slam to essentially put the game away. Austin Wells, Gleyber Torres also hit home runs as well. Game 5 tonight in New York, where hopefully the New York faithful won't try to interfere with players on the field. How about that little play last night?
Yeah, that was something. It wasn't just that he did it. It was the way that he was being praised after the game. You have Jesse Rogers with ESPN. He used to cover the Cubs for ESPN. Now he's just a general MLB reporter, but basically just trying to make this guy sound like he was a part of the game, like he was part of the entertainment. I don't get it. I think you're only setting yourself up to potentially have others try to interfere in these situations, because why not? You'll be famous, right? I don't know. I thought that was very strange. It wasn't just interfering with it. It was the way that they grabbed onto him and were literally tug of war with the ball. This was way worse than the Bartman situation. Bartman was a fan just getting caught up in the moment. These were just two a-holes that were physically getting involved in the game, and I didn't like that at all.
All right, so I have two takes on it. Number one, what they did probably borders on assault. I mean, they literally grabbed Mookie's arm.
What happens if they hurt Mookie?
They were all over Mookie.
Right.
So borderline assault. Now, here's another take, probably a least popular take, a not so popular take. At what point does home field advantage mean something? I mean, home field advantage is exactly this. If we have a couple crazies in the crowd trying to assault people, that's what home field is. And especially in New York, you know what you're getting into when you go to New York City. Come on.
I would gladly spend a night in jail and be banned from Great
Yeah.
American Ballpark to get the Reds a World Series win.
Wouldn't you want
Save them an out. Build me a statue.
Wouldn't you want some Reds fans going out and attacking people just to defend our home court?
I'm not going to say I want that. I'm going
Probably
to
not a good
distance
idea.
myself.
Yeah, here's the thing about Yankees fans. Nobody really likes them, and they all suck. But, they were defending home field, and I guess that's the only pro you can really take away from that entire situation. But that was outrageous. I don't think they were doing it for attention. I just think they're terrible people. I mean, I just think that's what was going on there. I think they were just in it for the love of the game. I don't think they really cared.
He went to
about
a
going
bar right
viral.
afterwards and was like hounded by fans, lines out the door to take pictures with
Yeah.
him. He didn't pay for drinks all night, stuff like that.
The biggest crime is paying like $5,000 for a World Series ticket and getting ejected in the first. That's the real crime.
Happened
of it all.
twice already this World Series.
It did. But
So,
another.
and
Go ahead.
real quick, Yankees fans, they were on their best behavior last night. You had that action, of course. Then I don't know if you guys saw the clip that was shared around social media last night, but during the stand up to cancer moment of silence, it's dead quiet. They're kind of
I saw
panning
this,
around
too.
all the players holding up. You had some random fan out of nowhere that just yelled, "You suck, Freeman." I mean, it's an emotional moment. It's really touching. It's dead quiet. Everyone's holding up their signs, with a name of a loved one that was impacted by cancer. It's a stand up to cancer moment of silence. And out of nowhere, as the camera's panning by, you just hear, "You suck, Freeman." New York at its finest, baby.
They're
York.
classy. Nobody's ever said New York wasn't classy. Moving on, other baseball news. The White Sox have hired Will Venable to be their next manager. Good for Will Venable. I used to play with Will Venable in MLB The Show when he was with the Padres.
Cool.
Here's a little nugget for
There
you.
you go.
I wonder if that's the exact rationale the White Sox had when they hired him to be the
I
manager.
don't think they do rationale.
Probably not. I mean, they lost 121 games, so who knows? Hockey news. That's right, hockey. They play. Alex Ovechkin scored 2 goals in a span of 2 minutes last night in the Capitals' 5-3 win over the Rangers. He is 38 goals away from passing Gretzky on the all-time goal list. How about that?
He's going to get there. And if he doesn't, the Capitals have thrown away the last 5 or so years of their franchise for nothing. So he better get there.
He better get there. Do you think he can get there this year?
No. That's
No.
a lot of goals. And he's really old. He's not playing as many games as he used to. He takes a lot of time off. So it'll probably be this year and next year to get there.
All right. NFL news. Prosecutors are reviewing a warrant request for Jamison Williams on a concealed weapons charge in Detroit. I don't want to speak for all the quotes that I read yesterday, but one of the quotes was, "Do you know where we live? We live in Detroit," as to the rationale behind having guns in his car. So kind of a very strange situation.
Jamison Williams, 3 years in the league, gambling suspension, PED suspension, gun suspension. One of us.
Well, I wouldn't say one of us.
Just one of the fellas.
I don't know if I've done that. But yeah, it's a brutal blow for my fantasy team, I'll tell you that. We can't lose Jamison Williams for any more games, so let's hope we get that fixed. The Vikings add left tackle Cam Robinson in a trade with Jacksonville. Deontay Johnson traded to the Ravens. It's good to see other teams trade. It's good to see other teams try. I think that's what I took away from yesterday.
It's almost like when you have an elite quarterback
Yeah.
and you have a window to win a Super Bowl, you go out and add players to fill the holes in your team because
Yeah.
in-season trades aren't that expensive.
Yeah, it's like I'll give you an example. Like when I need help with something, when I needed help with homework or something, I usually kept it to myself, right?
Yeah.
And I try to figure it out, or I'd Google it online. I just try to keep it to myself. Or I could go up and ask the teacher, and the teacher would just help me through it and pretty much give me all the answers. Eventually, I figured out that, if I just asked for some help every once in a while, it was a lot quicker and a lot better of a situation for my homework in terms of just efficiency. But other than that, the Bengals, they know they need help. They refuse to get it. They're just going to try to figure it out themselves. Good luck to them. We'll see if that works. Yes, Casey?
There's a little Casey chime-in moment here.
Oh.
The Ravens trading for Deontay Johnson. Not only did the Panthers only move up 15 picks in the draft next year, they also forfeited the possibility of getting a comp pick for Deontay Johnson if he leaves the Ravens or the Panthers. So not only did the Ravens only moved back 15 spots. They actually possibly gained a draft pick as well.
Yeah, net gain. So 9 games of Deontay Johnson and a mid-round pick. So good GMs make good trades, it seems like.
It seems like it's pretty easy. So good for the Bengals.
What does that do for Baltimore? Obviously, another pass catcher. Yes, I know that's a silly question, but
I think they saw
how much
that.
better does that make them?
He's their wide receiver 1 now, I think.
Well, they saw Zay Flowers take a football to the chest and have it bounce off and dribble it onto the turf.
Zay Flowers also ran one of the funniest routes you'll ever see
Yep.
this past weekend. I think he broke 15 times in one route, and then Lamar overthrew him, and how could you not? You have no idea where the receiver's going to be when he doesn't run a route. So I think it gives them probably their most reliable receiving option outside of Mark Andrews, who's broken out a little bit over the last few weeks. But I fully expect Deontay Johnson to be their wide receiver 1.
Stephon Diggs. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no, my fault, Elliot. No, I was just going to say, I don't mind the move. I like the move. I don't know if it fixes what – look, Baltimore's going to win games because of their offense with or without Deontay Johnson. They're going to lose games because of how bad that secondary is. I mean, you just lost to a 1-6 Cleveland Browns team because, look, Jameis, okay quarterback, no doubt, right? But he comes in and he throws all over you. They made Jameis Winston look like an MVP candidate out there. It was ridiculous. So they have problems on the defensive side of the ball, which is something we normally don't say about Baltimore. But the reality is they can get Deontay Johnson. I don't think that does anything in their battle with Pittsburgh and fighting for the top spot in the AFC North. But kudos to that front office because, hey, there was an opportunity to address a need. They did it. Good for them.
That's right. We have Stephon Diggs done for the season with a torn ACL. So now the Houston Texans are without Nico Collins and Stephon Diggs at the moment. So tough scenes.
Tank Dell to the moon.
Tank Dell, I'll tell you what. And finally, and they've been talking about it in the chat, Kinner, and you talked about it earlier on, Anthony Richardson has officially been benched as quarterback 1 of the Indianapolis Colts. I don't think this was a performance issue. I think this was simply what happened, what he said at the press conference. I was really tired, and I wanted to be taken out of the game. Quarterbacks don't do that. Leaders of the team don't do that. And I think this is a form of punishment.
I think whatever reason it is, benching Anthony Richardson after 10 starts is one of the most brain-dead, dumbest moves we've ever seen a front office and coaching staff make. You draft a quarterback that you know is going to be a project in the top 5, a guy that no one thinks is a plug-and-play player, and he has 10 starts in the NFL, and you pull him. I know the stats haven't been great. I know he said he was tired and pulled himself out of the game. You're not a competitive team this year, and you're pulling him for Joe Flacco to win you a game or 2 more. You're throwing away the future of your franchise. It's just ridiculous. If you're going to draft a project in the top 5, you have to see it through, and the only way you see it through is by giving him reps.
I wouldn't say it's a lost season. They're 4-4 in the AFC. At this point, they're borderline a playoff team.
Right, you sneak in the wild card, losing the first round. That's better than Anthony Richardson, your future quarterback, not trying to figure it out. I can't sell that to me.
No, but I do think that when you were as bad as he was, I don't think like he was. I mean, he was 10 for 32. He was 10 for 30.
I think Anthony Richardson gives the Colts a much better chance to win than Joe Flacco over the next 5 years.
Over the next 5 years, sure.
They have no chance of winning a Super Bowl this year.
He's 20 for his last 56 passing. 20 for his last 56.
But he's not supposed to be good. He's only started 10 games in his NFL career.
But
he's the youngest quarterback in the league.
He has the exact same numbers that Josh Allen did in the first 10 starts.
He started less games than Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders.
Okay.
This is a guy that you drafted knowing he needs time, and you pull him before you give him a chance to figure it out. It just doesn't make sense. If you wanted a sure thing, draft a sure thing.
It's fair.
First of all, I agree with everything you're saying, Jake, to a certain extent. Like, yes, and the only way to get better is to get those reps. And to get reps, you have to be out there. But this is that conflict that every organization faces where, hey, we're 4-4, we're a playoff team. Now, to Jake's point, are you a Super Bowl team? No. But I think a lot of organizations aren't going to do the whole, well, if we can't win a Super Bowl, we might as well just not try to win games at all. But again, when you think of the draft and all this other stuff, I mean, there's a lot of ramifications that go with it. I feel like they believe that they can win football games. They see the bottom of the AFC right now as vulnerable as it is. They believe they can make the playoffs. Flacco's a veteran quarterback that's still playing at a high level that they can get a lot out of. To your point, Jake, though, it's about big picture. Flacco's not going to be anything to them over the next 5 years, but he's very valuable to them right now. I think Richardson made it a little easy to make this decision with how poor he has played. It's not like he looks like a young quarterback. He looks like a bad quarterback right now, but you got to let him sift through some of that to kind of iron out some of those things. So I'm in between on this. I don't mind it because I don't think it's a benching for the rest of the season or benching as in moving on from him completely. But if we go a month, 2 months, and he hasn't made another start in Indianapolis, then I'm going to be on Jacob's side. I don't mind the benching for the time being just to kind of give him a little bit of a breather, no pun intended, after what he did last weekend. I just don't think it's as big a deal as what it's being made out to be right now. But you're right, Elliot, I think they're using what happened recently over this past weekend as an excuse just to put him off to the side. But not a good look in Indianapolis for a lot of reasons right now.
No, not at all. Those are your headlines.
All right. This is Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, and ESPN 1410 Wing AM in Dayton. All right, we'll step away for a few moments, and we'll transition from that topic to our next one, which, of course, does set up, does the NFL have a quarterback problem? And what I mean by that is you look at the situation with Anthony Richardson. Are the Colts in the wrong? You heard Jacob's take that he believes it's an absolute silly move. You drafted Richardson knowing he was going to be a project, and then when he looks like a project, you freak out and you put him over on the sidelines. But is this a Colts issue or an NFL issue? There are certain things that scouts are telling college quarterbacks right now based on how quarterbacks are being developed in the NFL. We'll discuss that when we come back. Does the NFL have a quarterback problem? We'll discuss next. Justin Kinner, Casey McAllister, Elliot Rearing, Jacob Tissett. This is Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. All right. Apparently, according to sources and according to different reporters out there, that scouts and agents are telling college quarterbacks not to leave school until they've started at least 2+ years, due to the fact that, of course, the NFL is not patient enough to help develop quarterbacks. When you look at the success of Jaden Daniels, when you look at the success of C.J. Stroud, I mean, even going back to Burrow's rookie year, I'm not saying he's not better now than he was as a rookie, but you saw right off the bat, this kid could play. He's an NFL quarterback. But they picked Joe Burrow because they lost a lot of games. They had a lot of deficiencies. Joe Burrow looked really, really good his rookie season before the injury. You look at Lamar Jackson when he came into the league. Of course, he didn't start right away, but Harbaugh was about to be fired. He's sitting behind Joe Flacco, ironically enough. They go to Joe Flacco, rookie year, leads him to the playoffs. I mean, they were already talking about moving on from Harbaugh that season, and the next thing you know, saves Harbaugh's career, leads the Ravens to the playoffs, and he's won 2 MVPs, possibly a third coming since then. I think the success of some of these rookie quarterbacks that have come in and made it look easy, it's ruined it for the rest of the quarterbacks coming out of college going into the NFL. Caleb Williams, there was almost a target on his back because of what C.J. Stroud did last year. C.J. Stroud with Tank Dell and Nico Collins and guys like that came in and took a team that was in last place and took them all the way to first place, winning a division title and winning a playoff game. There was going to be no patience for Caleb Williams. We got to be patient. He's a rookie. I get all of those talking points, but what people are going to say is, well, look at what C.J. Stroud did. And now you look at Anthony Richardson, second year, third, whatever year in the league he is now. He's barely made any starts. He's been injured a lot. He gets out there this season, doesn't look good. You pull the plug on him because he doesn't look good. People are impatient. Or look at what C.J. Stroud did. Look at what Jaden Daniels is doing. Caleb Williams is getting better. It's a microwave society when it comes to these quarterbacks in the NFL right now. And now you have agents and scouts telling college quarterbacks with NIL, with all the money that's available to you right now, you are better suited to stay in college an extra year. Don't bolt the second that you have the opportunity to, because the NFL is not going to develop you. In fact, if you don't come in and don't even look like you're close to a finished product, you risk being given up on very, very quickly. Richardson is a kind of an example of that. Is this just an isolated incident, or do you guys think that this is an indictment on the NFL as a whole? Do they have a quarterback problem? Are they not patient enough? How would you evaluate the current landscape of quarterbacks in the NFL in regards to expectations coming out of college?
I would say that this is kind of an isolated incident because I don't think there's many high draft picks that are as much of a known project as Anthony Richardson is. Yeah. And I think that's why I feel the way I do about this situation in and of itself is just because we knew this is what Anthony Richardson was going to be. We knew he was going to struggle. We knew he might stink for a while, and you were banking on the upside and the athleticism. But exactly like you said, I think the NFL is getting impatient, and it's because of the very few examples we've seen of plug-and-play elite rookies coming in and making a difference. I mean, even guys like Patrick Mahomes didn't start right away. Alex Smith started. Obviously, you go back to Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. Neither of those guys started right out of the draft. Lamar Jackson, behind Flacco. A lot of these guys who are the best quarterbacks in the league did not start right away. This is a very new phenomenon starting to happen, and it's because GMs and coaches are more tied to their single quarterbacks than ever. These guys' jobs are on the line whether or not these single first-round picks work out, and that didn't necessarily used to be the case. A lot of times coaches and GMs would get 1 or 2 shots at a quarterback before they're fired. Now, it's one and done. And if a coach or GM thinks they're on their last leg, they go draft another quarterback to try to extend that runway, because then you see what happened in Chicago. Matt Eberflus, getting Caleb Williams, gets him another year. If Caleb Williams gets this team to the playoffs, then that extends Matt Eberflus's contract and gets him more life in the NFL. These coaches and GMs are becoming too smart and knowing how that they can extend their jobs. That's why the conversation yesterday with giving up play calling. Head coaches do that all the time when they're about to lose their job, because they think if you make a change, then it's just 3 more weeks to see if that works before they can fire you. So it's the same thing with quarterbacks, more in a year-by-year sense. If a coach feels like they're on the edge and a quarterback isn't winning right away, they'll make a change because it's going to save their job. And I think that's the problem. Front offices and coaches fail quarterbacks far more often than quarterbacks fail coaches and front offices.
Yeah,
that's a great point. Oh, sorry. No, that's a great. I didn't even think about that from the coach's perspective. You're right. And I don't know how much power Steichen has over with the Colts. I mean, we got Ballard there. You obviously have a very involved owner. I'm sure it was a team decision to go this route to a certain extent, but I'm sure Steichen wasn't speaking out against it because, hey, Flacco comes in, they're going to win football games, and if they get to the playoffs, Steichen's going to be like, you can't fire me. I just led the Colts to the playoffs with quarterback issues. You're very right. I mean, even you look at a guy like Kevin Stefanski, who's won a couple of Coach of the Years in Cleveland. A lot of it has had to do with, hey, if Deshaun starts every game during the Stefanski era, he's probably fired by now, to be honest with you. Like right now, look, and people were questioning Stefanski's job security when Deshaun was starting every game to start the year. Now he goes out and wins a big game against Baltimore with, of course, Jameis Winston, and now everyone's like, see, that's the Kevin Stefanski we knew. His job might be saved because of that. So that's a good point from the coaching perspective of why that decision could have been made. Elliot, I cut you off. My apologies.
That's okay, Kenner. It's only like the 4th time today. Here's the thing. I know. My bad. You're good. I think coaches in the NFL have shorter leashes now than ever. I think there's more pressure to get things done quicker, and I think the patience aspect just isn't a part of the league anymore. I think you draft a guy and you think he's good right away. That's why you draft him. I think you're very rarely going to see the guy like what the Falcons did with Penix Jr. in Atlanta. I think that's a one-off. I think you're not going to see that very much. J.J. McCarthy was drafted to play right away. Bo Nix right away, and that's usually what happens in the first round. But at the end of the day, I do think there's success stories where if a guy can learn, a guy can sit back a year, learn how an NFL franchise operates, learn how an offense operates in the NFL, learn under a quarterback like Joe Flacco, take your year, and then the next year you're ready to go. I think there's not enough of that going on right now in the NFL because it's a win-now league. You want to try to get to the playoffs, appease your fan base, and get there as quick as possible, especially if you're like the Colts and you have 4 wins under your belt. If the Colts had 2 wins, Anthony Richardson would still be the quarterback. If the Colts were absolutely terrible, there's no question in my mind that Anthony Richardson starts. But the fact of the matter is he hasn't been good this season. He's been borderline terrible. And you have Joe Flacco, who's proven that the offense, again, just like it was in Cleveland, looks significantly better. So, yes, you want to develop. Jacob's right. I mean, you don't draft a guy to give up on him. That's silly. It's stupid. It's not how a franchise should be operated. Saying that, you're 4-4 in the AFC, a conference that 4-4 might get you the best wild card seed at the moment. That's how bad this conference is. So you're like, okay, we're going to try to win a couple games and then maybe go back to AR. And we'll see what happens. Anthony Richardson is as of right now, one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. I don't think that's just my opinion. I think that's factual. Based on what he's done this season, he hasn't been very good. He hasn't been giving the Colts a greater chance to win football games than Joe Flacco has. That's a fact. So if I'm the Colts front office, I say, look, I'm going to try to get to the playoffs no matter what. and that's what we're going to do. If it's Joe Flacco, it's Joe Flacco. The issue with that is you're very much saying you don't believe in your star quarterback, which is just as bad. So I don't know. I think the NFL doesn't necessarily have a quarterback problem. It has an urgency problem. I think you're trying to get to the playoffs as much as possible. You're trying to win as much as possible. And coaches know they're under the gun immediately. It's not like it was 10 years ago where you have long-tenured coaches. I know there still are some in the NFL, a decent amount in the NFL. But these new head coaches, they get fired like that. And they're trying to win as many games as possible so they can defend their job when they have a bad season.
What you just said, though, makes it a performance issue then. It's not a benching because he said he was tired.
No, I do. This particular issue, I do believe was based on what he said in the postgame.
Then he'll start next week.
That he should start next week.
Okay. Then we're on the same page. We're on the same page.
He should start next week. He won't start next week.
You don't. Then that makes it a performance issue. Then
we'll see. We'll see what happens. Because my thing is, if Joe Flacco wins and they get to 5-4, how do you bench Joe Flacco now?
What are you playing for?
But that's what I'm saying. Like you think that a playoff season's a lost season. I don't think that's how
if
NFL franchises
Joe Flacco was 30, I think it's a different conversation. If Joe Flacco's on a 3-year deal, I think it's a different conversation. If Joe Flacco loses this game, no question in my mind, Joe Flacco's gone. What do you gain from starting Joe Flacco this year if you're the Colts?
As of right now, a playoff season. You get to make the playoffs.
And that's better than having Anthony Richardson get more than 10 starts and he's your quarterback for the next 4 years.
I'm not saying it's better. I'm just saying that's how they're looking at it right now. And I'm not saying it's. I'm pretty much saying it's wrong. Okay. You can't draft a quarterback and give up on him like this. But Josh Allen wasn't benched, right? Josh Allen was never benched. You don't bench your quarterback. I think this was. I truly believe this was one of those things. Yes, he's been bad, and that I think is a part of it. But the main reason as to why he is not playing this weekend is because he came out openly and said, as the leader and quarterback one of the Indianapolis Colts, said, "You know what, Coach? I'm tired. Take me out of the game." I think at least every football player I've seen, at least that hosts or is on one of those ESPN talk shows, CBS, Fox, whatever, all the talk shows in the world, every former player said the same thing. As quarterback one, you don't do that. You don't take yourself out of games. It's never happened before. They've never seen it before. And I think that's what's going on for this particular instance.
So a little pushback, Jake, on this, just because, I mean, you're very fiery about, he needs to be out there.
Yeah.
But I don't think the only way for him to improve is to be out there. I mean, we talked about it. Jordan Love is one of the best QBs in the NFL right now, and he's sat for years. He didn't need those reps out on the field to develop into what he is.
Jordan Love started Lamar, 3 years in college.
I get that. And to your point, so you're saying big picture, it's
Anthony
because
Richardson
you knew what you got
played
thinking about.
Yeah, right. Anthony Richardson hasn't played football. That's just... And that's why I thought it was not a great pick to take him at 4. But once you do, you're in that boat, and you have to stay in that boat. I think it's the only way you can be competitive for the next 3 or 4 years, because you don't know if he's good or not. No, you're good.
My bad. Sorry. No, it's one of those two where, or they're just saying, hey, he's just not good. You know, we saw the Cardinals give up on Josh Rosen after 1 year.
That's fair, but I think, again, if you're pulling the plug on not good after 10 NFL starts, then you shouldn't have drafted him in the first place.
And that's fair.
I think
and
if you pull the plug on not good, the coach and the GM need to be gone, because then you're not giving him a chance to be good.
I also think, too, and Elliot brought this up as well, because you keep asking, what are you playing for? The playoffs is everything to every NFL team. I know at the end of the day, you're developing to get to the points where you're considered a Super Bowl contender. But I think where you and I always disconnect on is, to me, fighting to make the playoffs at all costs it should be. This is why when you guys got on me about the draft take last year, it's because I wholeheartedly hate when teams tank. To where that whole draft bit was about the fact that, hey, reward the teams that are still trying to win, even though they don't have anything to technically play for because they're not a championship contender. My whole draft take on that was, now you're going to reward the Colts of the world who, if they went Jake's route, well, we can't win a Super Bowl, so we don't want to win games at all. That's bad for the NFL. But if you have a team like the Colts that says, hey, we don't have a chance to win a Super Bowl, but we're going to keep competing each and every week, I want to reward those teams. I don't want to get back in the draft debate. I'm just using this as an example to defend that during that time. But I see both sides. Yes, the Colts, they're not winning a Super Bowl, but to actively come out and just say, we're not good enough to win a championship, so now we're not even going to try to win football games. I think that's hard to sell the locker room and everyone else just based off one person.
Starting AR is not trying to win football games, though. I think that is a little bit of a reach for how bad he's been. The box score has not been pretty, but he's been good. He's been hit more than any quarterback in the league when he's thrown. He has the highest drop percentage of his receivers when he's thrown. He has the highest percentage of his receivers not getting separation when he's throwing the ball deep. He had 3 red zone drops last week when he went 5 for 15 or whatever the stat line that went viral was. These players around him haven't been great. Has he been good? Absolutely not. But if it is a performance thing, I think we've seen time and time again, pulling the plug on project quarterbacks early is not a way to go about it as a GM or a coach, because what are you going to do next time you get a quarterback in there that struggles? Are you going to pull the plug on him again? Sign another backup quarterback like Joe Flacco just in case you want to pull the plug?
Well, I think that's been so go ahead, Casey.
There is one thing to this conversation I'd like to add. I'm not trying to advocate for one side or the other because I think it's a very nuanced conversation here. Joe Flacco, the games that he has played in, the amount of snaps that he's played in, he's 3rd in EPA in the league. He's been very, very good as the Colts quarterback. So I think there is somewhat of a justifiable reason that you're at least giving Joe a chance if you think that they can be more than just a wild card team. I think you've already set in your mind that they're just a wild card team.
Well, you're saying that they're going to win the division?
I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying, like, in their mind, if there was ever a chance, if Joe Flacco continues to be the 3rd best quarterback in the league, that would put them way ahead of schedule in terms of competing for a championship or whatever it means. And you could still develop Anthony Richardson behind that.
And if the Colts were a championship contender, I would have a completely different tune. So if Joe Flacco comes in there and rips off a few wins and they're a legitimate AFC contender, then I guess you're right. But I just don't see a Colts roster outside of the quarterback position that leads them to a championship with Joe Flacco. And I think you're shooting yourself in the foot for the next 2 or 3 years by benching AR.
I also think it comes – I mean, Jim Irsay is – respectfully, I think he's trying to – again, some of these older owners are trying to win now. They're trying to win immediately. And that patience grows thin when you're an aging owner.
I do think the fan base is really upset about this.
I think that's fine, and I think they have a right to be. I just think when you have a quarterback room of Phillip Rivers, Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan, Gardner Minshew, Joe Flacco over the past 5 seasons, that's not a franchise that wants to develop quarterbacks. That's a franchise that wants to win and squeeze every ounce of talent, the remaining talent out of these 40-year-old quarterbacks.
But didn't you draft Anthony Richardson to develop him so you didn't have to do Matt Ryan, Phillip Rivers, and Gardner Minshew again? And now you're just doing it again with Flacco.
I think you did, but again, there's only so many ways you can defend the stat lines that he's had when you're 4-4. If they had one win, Anthony Richardson is playing every game. No question about it. The fact that they are 4-4 in this AFC, in this particular AFC, Joe Flacco is going to play until he loses games, and then you make the switch. That's what's going on here. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that's what's happening.
I really hope that it's not. I really hope this is just he said he's tired and we're pulling him for one game.
Could be.
So if they win this week,
Joe Flacco stays.
I think you ride Flacco as long as you can. But yeah, because again, and it's one of those too where if you have a quarterback that's better than your starter sitting behind you, that's always the pushback I give. Like, how is that okay? Like, that's the stuff when those teams years ago pretended. When I think it was the Dolphins with the whole tanking situation. What was the defensive coordinator that was suing the NFL? Why am I drawing to Brian Flores? So Flores was saying that they're tanking, and everyone was outraged. Oh, we can't be tanking. I'm like, that's what teams do all the time. Teams actively tank. They may not call it that, but when you're choosing not to play the quarterback that's better over, to me, that's still actively tanking in that particular situation. And that's why I always disagree with that aspect as well. Play the players that are the best. But again, projects is Anthony Richardson. So who knows? But all right, this is Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers. Casey, I sent, I put some notes in the bottom for you to read. Let me know if you got those or not. Because silly me, my alarm's going off in my car, so I have to pop out and go fix that real quick. So you guys are going to do ad reads. You're going to do ad reads real quick, and then I'll be right back. So this is Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers. Real professional, Kenner.
All right. Ad reads.
Earliest ad reads of all time,
That's
maybe.
right.
By the way, shout out to if you're interested in Chatterbox Bengals podcast now available.
You didn't press the button, Casey.
What do you mean I didn't press the button?
It's still on you.
I know.
Oh, we're fine. We're fine.
Okay.
We're fine. Again, Chatterbox Bengals podcast is available. YouTube rewatch available now.
That's right.
If you missed it last night, go watch it. On Thursday, Chatterbox Bengals live on Halloween. I need to see if we're dressing up as something.
I am dressing up.
You're dressing up for Halloween on Thursday.
We can, after the show or during box lunch, we could discuss a 3-part costume.
Okay. All right.
But I think that might be hard on one day's notice. I have a few ideas for myself if we all want to dress up. I will be dressed up for both shows tomorrow, maybe in 2 different costumes. I haven't decided yet.
Okay. I'll see. Maybe I do the Chris Farley bit with the little jacket. Maybe I do that.
That'd be funny.
I was thinking about just being a clown.
That'd be good.
You should, like Kinner.
But if you're going to do it, you got to go full face paint. You got to go in.
And I'm also going to wear my
Could
Bengals
you
jersey.
imagine?
Yeah.
Could you imagine full face paint, Casey, trying to get that off in time for next Monday?
For next Monday.
Or for yeah.
I think you'd have time.
I don't know. Casey wore green paint last year and it stayed on for like 5 days.
Really?
No.
Yes, yes, it did. Your face was green for a month. Anyway, Chatterbox Bengals live on Thursday, Champions Grill, west side of Cincinnati, off Work Road.
Everett said we should all get bad haircuts and wear homage shirts.
Live. Chatterbox.
Back just in time.
Chatterbox Bengals is live at Champions Grill Thursday, 7 p.m. leading up to Thursday Night Football. I hope to see you all there. If you hadn't come yet, like Mouse Cop, hopefully you're going to be able to be there. So
He'll be sick again.
Maybe phantom illness. Champions Grill Thursday, 7 p.m. off Work Road. Champions Grill with an E, Work Road with an E.
That's Work Road with an E and Champions Grill with an E.
With an E. E. So see you guys there. Thank you very much of those of you who've come so far. Thank you to Mike Ackley and Nate, who I'm pretty sure show up every week.
That's right.
Love you guys. So
Thank you to your parents, who also show up every week.
That's correct.
And your grandparents.
Yeah, that's correct. Shout out to them.
That's right.
All right. Let's go back
Casey's
to radio
family's
land.
shown up to, I think, half.
That's right.
Your family's only up to 1.
She's coming this week, I think. We'll see. She doesn't love me very much.
We'll see. We'll see.
Radio time.
All right, and we are back. This is Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Justin Kinner, Casey McAllister, Elliot Rearing, and Jacob Tissett with you here on 1410 ESPN Radio. Okay, talk a little bit about the Anthony Richardson thing. Of course, being benched for how long, we don't know. That's kind of the big debate right now. You know, with the NFL being such a copycat league, it is interesting. Like, I think when you started to see some of the teams have success with rookie quarterbacks, especially quarterbacks on rookie contract deals, you started to see a lot of teams follow that mold. Like, hey, we got to lose some games so we can get our rookie quarterback. Hopefully we hit on that rookie quarterback, and now we have 4 years, 3 to 4 years to, reallocate funds everywhere else and take advantage of that window. We've seen the Bengals get to a Super Bowl during that window. We've already seen the Texans take advantage of it fully right now. Obviously, Stephon Diggs out for the rest of the season. That's a problem, but kudos to the Texans in the offseason because they were actually an explosive offense last year. They didn't have to go get Stephon Diggs, but they were, hey, we can be aggressive now because we're not paying our quarterback. As you guys are seeing, once it's time to pay the quarterback, being aggressive goes out the window. You have to be a little bit more conservative with a lot of the decisions you make financially. The question I have is, with the league being such a copycat league, the reason we should be pulling for teams like the Bucs with Baker Mayfield or the Vikings with the Sam Darnold, and no one's going to pull for the Browns with Jameis Winston. I know you said you would, Elliot, nonetheless. But like and Geno Smith with the Seahawks, I think what the NFL's wanting to see is, okay, I know as an organization, if I had a Geno Smith, we're going to win football games. If I go get Jameis, we're going to win football games. We could win with Sam Darnold. But then it goes to Jacob's point. If you're throwing a roster out there that is not good enough to win a Super Bowl, then what are we technically doing? And that's what I always see with Sam Darnold. That's what I see with Baker Mayfield. That's what I see with a lot of these quarterbacks who are really good. But I'm like, okay, but I don't think anyone looks at these guys as, oh man, that they're going to go rip a Super Bowl from Patrick Mahomes. They're going to go, you know what I mean? Like, we see the Josh Allens and the Joe Burrows and the Lamar Jacksons of the world, the Justin Herberts. Those are the caliber of quarterbacks that haven't won one yet. that are capable or good enough to do it, but we don't give the same, respect to Sam Darnold and others. I kind of want to see a Vikings team go to Sam Darnold and win a Super Bowl so that other teams could say, look, we don't have to tank to the point where we have to get our Joe Burrow, and that's the only way to win football games. I would like it if you can go get a Geno Smith or a Sam Darnold or a Baker Mayfield and win a Super Bowl. Right now, the reason those fan bases are enjoying the winning but not really buying all the way in is because they know their limitations at quarterback, and that ultimately catches up with you. I'm pulling for one of those type of guys to show that, yes, you can build a Super Bowl roster with them leading the way. I hope that's the case. I hope that's the case someday, because right now the only way that I think gets in the way of everyone, this Anthony Richardson thing is a problem because of the way that the NFL works right now, which I like because there's parity. But at the same time, the Colts are like, man, if we don't win with Anthony Richardson, we're not winning anything at all. I would like to see someone pull that off with a Flacco, a Geno, a Baker, a Darnold, someone along those lines.
A Nick Foles. I will say this, Super Bowl quarterbacks don't grow on trees.
Right.
So you're trying to give your team the best chance in the world to get to that point. I think teams know that, Baker Mayfield is not close to Patrick Mahomes, that Geno Smith is not close to Patrick Mahomes. But those guys still give you a chance, and they give you, and that's all that sports is. It's about having the opportunity to get as far as you can, and that's all this is. I agree with you, Kenner. I'd love to see one of these guys take over a team for a couple seasons, just be a rental, basically a rental quarterback, and take them all the way. I would like to see that. I think it's fun. I think fan bases deserve it. But make no mistake, it would be a one-off. Like, teams know that it's very rare to not have a great elite Super Bowl caliber quarterback and go on to win a Super Bowl. It doesn't really happen. It happened with Nick Foles, but I'd argue if Nick Foles started that season, they don't win a Super Bowl.
Carson Wentz was the MVP.
Correct.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where you're just trying to give your fan base, you're trying to give the guys in the locker room as much belief as you can give them. And if the quarterback shines and if he's able to get a playoff win or two, then you've had a good season. Like, if you win a playoff game, you've had a good season.
Yeah.
It's not everything's Moneyball where if you don't win the last game of the season, nobody gives an S. But I do think that those guys, you have to know going in, you're not ever going to win a Super Bowl probably with Baker Mayfield. You're not going to probably ever win a Super Bowl with Geno Smith. You can win 10 games. You can win your division. But you know what's going to happen. You know Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, somebody in the NFL that is the top 5 quarterback, Lamar Jackson, somebody is going to get there, and it's probably not going to be your team.
Would you count Kirk Cousins in Atlanta in this kind of tier of quarterbacks?
Well, Kirk Cousins is, I think
he's a lot better, but still like a 2-year kind of
rental. It's a rental. It's a rental. I would count it. I would absolutely count it.
So if, a Geno Smith in Seattle, Baker in Tampa, Darnold in Minnesota, and I guess if we're going to count Kirk in Atlanta, if any of those 4 teams win the Super Bowl, or any team with a rental quarterback, Russ in Pittsburgh, any of these rental quarterbacks win a Super Bowl, it's going to flip the NFL on their head, because teams are no longer going to jump at signing a $55 million quarterback like a Tua or a Trevor that's not necessarily at that level, and you're caving because you don't think you can get anyone else. If someone proves that you can win without a top-level quarterback, that's going to become a relative normal in the NFL. Yeah. You're going to see guys outside the top 5 to 7 stop getting extended. And as a guy that has already extended our quarterback, already paid Joe Burrow a lot of money, I do not want that to happen. Quarterbacks need to keep getting paid. Bad quarterbacks need to keep getting paid. The price needs to keep going up, because that's what's going to make big-time contracts look better. And for Joe Burrow, $55 million every single year continues to fall down that leaderboard. And that's a great thing for the Bengals when it comes to both the cap and just looking at extending other players, because if you're no longer paying the most expensive quarterback, it gives you a lot more free space. So would it be good for the league for one of these rental quarterbacks to win it? Absolutely. As a fan of a team that already extended their quarterback long-term for big money, I do not want it.
Yeah, and you brought up the Nick Foles thing a little bit ago, Elliot, like that, and that was like such a cool story. But like at the same, in the Jaguars, like they tried to bite. Remember, after they won that Super Bowl, the Jaguars gave him like a 4-year, $88 million contract. He got a nice little contract out of it with the Jags. Now, it did not work. The Jags blew it all up, and that's ultimately what led to the rebuild that got them Urban Meyer as a head coach and Trevor Lawrence as a quarterback. But teams did kick the tires. They did think, oh man, Nick Foles, maybe he's that guy. I mean, he outperformed Tom Brady in a Super Bowl. I think that was an outlier situation. That was just a storyline more than the reality. But the reality is, Sam Darnold is a cool story. Baker's a cool story. Geno, these guys, they're all cool stories. Flacco last year with the Browns, cool. If he could lead the Colts to the playoffs this year, also cool. But ultimately, when the fan base right now, if you're a Buccaneers fan, do you feel like, oh man, we got our franchise quarterback? You have security at quarterback. I don't know if you feel you have a franchise quarterback with Baker Mayfield. And I think that's what these teams are trying to figure out. But yeah, Jake, and that's a good point too. Again, the model right now is working. NFL's a behemoth right now. And it's working just fine. Nothing's broken. But I do think there's a blueprint out there that teams are trying to follow, because that's the only thing that's leading to Super Bowls is that. And you can't follow the Chiefs' way, because the Chiefs don't make any damn sense, kind of like Pittsburgh at times. They don't make any sense either. So
I think it goes back to your question last segment. Is there a quarterback talent deficiency in the NFL? Teams want to win as soon as possible. They want to give their fan base, they want to give their organization the best chance they can, and people don't have the patience to develop quarterbacks. It's good organizations do, but a lot of organizations are trying to win immediately, and they're trying to win now. And they're trying to just get to the playoffs, because once you get to the playoffs, you just say, look, we made it to the playoffs, we had a good year. That's what it comes down to. So a lot of these quarterbacks, the Geno Smith, Sam Darnolds, Kirk Cousins, Derek Carrs of the world, they're going to get moved around and shuffled because they've had success in the league. Not great success, but they've had enough success to where you can rationalize to your fan base, to your locker room, to the general manager, to the owner, that this guy can win football games, and that's enough for us.
All right, this is Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, and ESPN 1410 Wing AM in Dayton. The other thing about this, too, is that there is no sport out there that has a better feeder system than the NFL. I mean, everyone's acting like, should they, do they need to get like a developmental league to help with this? No, they don't. They don't need that. They have it, and they don't have to pay a dime for it, and it's college. Like you're maybe not Ohio State's not a good example to use. They have C.J. Stroud, and that's it. But like the SEC is developing your quarterbacks. These high major programs are developing your quarterbacks for you, and I think that's really what the reality is. But the cool thing for the NFL is when these guys, the reason the draft is so popular is because every name you hear, the majority of them are stars. You know those names, and you know exactly what impact they're going to make right away. You don't get that with the NBA, Major League Baseball. Find out who they draft and find out who's going to be on your roster 3 years from now. The NFL, it's instant impact. And if we draft you and there's no instant impact, you feel like you had a bad draft. That's kind of where we're at right now. And it's like when you're drafted as a quarterback, you're expected to come in and be as close to a finished product as possible, whether it's fair or not.
And in this new model of college football, we see quarterbacks going from 3 different schools, 4 different offenses. The coordinator turnover is higher than it's ever been. The weapons turnover is higher than it's ever been. You don't get to see guys get comfortable in a system. I mean, I guess Shedeur Sanders is a unique example because his coaches followed him from Jackson State to Colorado. But Cam Ward, this is his 3rd college. And we're talking about him as the number 1 quarterback in this class. How many quarterbacks have been drafted that have played for multiple coaches in multiple offenses? It's not giving these guys a chance to get comfortable. And it goes back to what we talked about in the NFL with the coach turnover there. These guys are not playing in single systems for a long time. I know Bryce Young is probably a bad example because he probably wouldn't have worked in any system. He's 5'8". But he had 3 offensive coordinators in 2 years. I don't know that anyone's working in a system like that with no consistency, no weapons, no O-line, no consistent play caller, 2 different head coaches. It's just not a recipe for success, and you're so quick to throw out the coach with the quarterback or the quarterback with the coach. I wish more teams would rely on these guys and let them grow. That's really the only thing.
We have I thought AJ put in an interesting chat. Do you think there will ever be an NFL, and I know college football already is that, but do you think there will ever be like the XFL or AFL, whatever the hell it's called now? Do you think that will ever develop into a minor league for the NFL?
I think,
and each franchise gets their own minor league team.
No. There'll never be like a G League or a minor leagues. I don't think. I think very soon, within the next 5 to 10 years, the power conferences are going to secede from the NCAA and have their own, and not deal with the NCAA and hold their own championship. And I think that is when we're going to see more of a minor league system and more communication between the league and college football.
Okay.
Yeah, you bring a developmental system. Like the NBA G League doesn't make any sense to me. No. If you play on a G League team, like for instance, like imagine Major League Baseball with the Reds, let's say like the Dragons, they're developing a player. for the Cincinnati Reds. But out of nowhere, the Mets need a player, so they just go pull a guy from me. Why would teams invest time, effort, money, and energy into developing a player that technically could not be theirs? And again, you could say, they could be traded or whatever, but the G League doesn't make any sense. You can go poach any of these players off G League rosters. I don't understand the purpose of the G League from that perspective, even though they're linked up to certain teams, like Imani Bates, drafted by the Cavs. He goes back and forth between theirs, but anyone can go pull Imani if they really wanted him, depending on the contract. So why would I waste time developing you when you're not technically my player? That's the big question and pushback I have for the G League for how they do it. Nonetheless. But okay. Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, ESPN 1410 Wing AM in Dayton. We'll get into a little buy or sell coming up around the corner, plus NFL MVP. Who would you be? Who is the favorite to win the MVP as we sit here right now, 8 weeks in? We'll get to all of that coming up. More Off the Bench next. All right, little buy or sell as we sit here on a Wednesday. Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Justin Kinner, Casey McAllister, Elliot Rearing, Jacob Pissett. What?
Cap or no cap?
Are we doing a new cap or no cap, or you wanted to cool it up?
Well, I was just saying that that's what you guys.
I think that's
used
what
to
the
do.
youth are saying.
I think cap or no cap. I think that flies better. So let's just try. Can we try cap or no cap?
Is that lit?
Yeah, that's lit, fam.
That's lit. In the club, we all fam.
Yeah, we all fam.
Jacob is my witness, but I did effort to bring cap or no cap to Off the Bench, and there was one particular person vetoing it.
That's
and
right.
That's the guy that's trying to bring it back, and I appreciate that.
Well, it wasn't cool then. It wasn't cool.
Now it's
then.
cool.
Now it's cool.
Well, the bottom ticker's been updated. This is cap or no cap.
Okay.
Oh,
good.
nice. All right, little cap or no cap action. All right, little cap or no cap. Again, cap means lie, no cap means truth. For all you uncool people out there who
It
needed
gets
the
less
explanation.
cool if you explain it.
Oh, well, I have to do it more so for my purposes. Because half the time when I go to answer, I'm like, wait, what is that again?
That's fair. That's fair.
All right, so let's get rolling here. Cap or no cap then? How about that? Okay, cool. Thank you. I'm excited to debut it on the show today. How
I'm
about that?
excited,
We're
too.
back.
There you go. Cap or no cap, Pittsburgh Steelers winning the AFC North.
I'll let you speak since you're the Steelers expert here.
Cap. That's cap.
That's a
You're
lie.
all in on Baltimore?
I want the Steelers shut me up on what was that? Monday night, Sunday night? Sunday night. They shut was it Monday night?
It was Monday night.
Monday night they shut me up. There's no doubt about it. Russell Wilson looks significantly better than I think most people thought he would look. Not me. I thought he would actually
You're
be
in
pretty
a
good.
weird spot where you're so out on the Steelers,
But
and
I'm so in
on
on Russell Wilson. Yeah,
which
that's-
is the only thing that drives the Steelers.
Yeah, that's tough, isn't it? It's a tough place to be. I think Russell Wilson's been a good quarterback. I think his stint with Denver, an organization that pushed him out towards the end, I think that was fraudulent. I don't think that's what Russ could be. I think we know Danger Russ. I think this guy's been a good quarterback in the NFL. You're seeing it right now in Pittsburgh. That offense looks significantly better with Russell Wilson under center. So I'm gonna say it's cap because I still think it's the Ravens' division to lose. But there is I can't say they're not a playoff team anymore. They're good. They're good, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna say no. Can I split the difference?
No.
Visor.
I think you can maybe buy it.
All right, I'll buy it. Cap or no cap, I will buy
it.
the Steelers winning the AFC North. I don't know that they're going to do it. I do think it's going to be very close all the way down the wire. I think the Steelers' back half of the schedule is not nearly as hard as it looked at the beginning of the season. You have the Browns twice. You have the Bengals twice. Are we sure that's not 4 bad teams?
Yeah, it could be.
I mean, the whole point of this schedule being so hard was that the AFC North was so dominant. It now looks like 2 of those teams are going to be picking in the top 15 or so, top 20. So certainly missing the playoffs, at least it seems right now. So I don't know how hard the Steelers' schedule really is. I think Russ is good enough to win them a lot of games. I think that defense is good enough to win them even more games. So I'm going to buy this cap or no cap.
You're going to buy it.
Again, is cap, no cap? You said in the middle is like a visor. Like,
Okay,
we go cap,
I'll go
visor,
visor.
No cap.
What is your take on visors, Kenner? Cap or no cap visors?
I'm out on visors. I'm out on visors.
Select
Wear a hat.
few.
Only if you go upside down sideways.
Select few could pull it off, and then others should pull it off and never put it back on. Like,
I'm with
not
you
a
there.
visor guy. I'm not a visor guy, you know?
It-
I have
it
to make
depe-
sure I don't.
It would depend. Like, it depends on your hair.
The only people
it depends
that can
on
rock
what the hair
a visor,
situation is.
The only people that can rock a visor are college football coaches with a thinning mullet.
Yes.
That's the best way to rock a visor.
Like Scott Satterfield
Steve
wearing a
Spurrier.
visor doesn't do it for me.
Spurrier, great. Oklahoma State, Gundy, great. That's about it.
Does Kirby pull off the visor? Isn't he
Kirby
a
doesn't
visor guy?
really pull much off. Kirby doesn't pull much off other than getting his guys out of court.
We're talking about Kirby Smart, by the way, not Nick Kirby. Shout out to Nick
That's
Kirby.
right, that's right.
I think Nick Kirby could be a pretty cool visor guy.
Nick Kirby would definitely be a visor guy.
I don't think
Yeah.
I've ever seen
All right,
Kirby
there
in a
you go.
visor. I don't think I've seen Kirby in a visor. Our Kirby.
Well, and I mean, again, like you made fun of my hair last week, but I'm at the point now, and like Kirby, anytime you get to your 30s, you don't want to cover up your hair. You want to show
right.
off that we're one of the few of our age group that still has our hair. People make fun of my hair. I'm like, that's fine. I used to go buzz cut all the time, but my wife said, hey, you're the only one of all of our friends that still has his hair, so like show it off. So there you
right.
go. Until I start thinning, I'm going with the fake hair look.
And now you're growing it out, right?
I guess I almost wore a hat today, but I didn't want to make it look like I was hiding the hair from Elliot. So I'm like, nope, letting it flow, flow.
I like the toupee. It suits you.
It's not a toupee. I showed you last week. It was real. Anyways, but no cap or no cap. The Steelers winning the AFC North. I'm going to say no cap. I think they can do it. I think that they can do it. I actually think that they're the most complete team in the AFC North with Russell Wilson at quarterback right now with this version. To be fair, I was fine with the move without seeing it initially, moving on from Justin Fields, just because I saw him with Denver last year. I was like, I think that's even good enough with Pittsburgh. But we watched Pittsburgh win. They went 14-11 with Kenny Pickett as their starting quarterback. All right, they went 4-2 with Justin Fields as their starting quarterback. Obviously, Mason Rudolph was 8-4-1 as starting quarterback with the Pitt. They're going to win regardless of who's at quarterback to a certain extent. But there's just something that's different about this offense the last 2 weeks with Russell Wilson there. So assuming that this is the offense moving forward, the run game's complemented Russ's pass game as well. I think they're the most complete team in the AFC North because as dominant as the offense has been for Baltimore, they are that bad defensively. They are very bad defensively. That secondary is atrocious. And I think when you have to strip it down to that, I'm going to go with the team that's the most complete. And I think that's Pittsburgh as we sit here right now. So we'll see.
I'm not out on Pittsburgh by any means. I think they're a pretty good team. And I was so far out on Russ. I think the last 2 years in Denver clouded my mind as to what he was in Seattle because he certainly looks closer to that than anything he was in Denver.
He's been good, man. There's no other way to say it.
2 years ago was objectively bad.
Yeah, but last year wasn't bad.
Last year wasn't terrible.
Last year was not bad.
And they quit on him.
They 100% quit on this guy. So no, Russell Wilson's a fine quarterback.
All right, moving on. We'll stay in the AFC North. But last year we saw this was a year where we had no idea who was going to win the North, and we thought that even the team that finishes last was going to be a team above 500, kind of like last year. But cap or no cap, we saw this conference this division get 3 teams in the playoff last year. Will they do it again? Cap or no cap, the AFC North will get 3 teams in the playoff.
Cap. They're going to get 2. Steelers and Ravens, I'll lock them both in right now, but I really don't think the Bengals or the Browns have any chance of getting in. I would lean the Bengals if you made me pick one of those 2 teams to sneak in just because of quarterback play, and I know Jameis looked great, but if I had to pick a quarterback to play more consistently the rest of the year, I'm going to rely on Joe Burrow over Jameis Winston, and that's why I would say the Bengals, but I don't think the Bengals have a great chance of making the playoffs, so I'll say cap here with 3 AFC North teams making it.
I'm going to say no cap. I think you're going to see three playoff teams from the AFC North. I'm not completely out on the Bengals. I know I'm down on the Bengals, but I'm not out. I'm not out yet. If you show up on Sunday, you beat the Raiders, and then you take care of business against the Ravens, the season's not only back on, but now you have a chance to go out there and maybe potentially make a run at the division. So, no, I'm not out yet. I think the Bengals still have a chance, and I'm going to say that there's going to be 3 playoff teams from the AFC North yet again.
Bengals win 4 straight games, I'm back in.
Okay.
Raiders, Ravens, Chargers, Steelers.
3 in a row, you're back in.
Yeah, but then if Pittsburgh comes into Cincinnati and beats you, I'm back out.
No.
I need to find a way to not have to get back out.
3 you're back in. 3 you're back in.
I was only saying the 4 because if we turn around and go to Dallas and lose, I wouldn't be out.
Okay.
So I was trying to give myself that because if we win those 3 and the Steelers come into Paycor and beat the Bengals, I will be back out.
What about 3 of 4?
If we win 3, lose who are we losing to? Because if we lose to the Raiders, I'm never getting back in.
Yeah. It would be the Cowboys?
If we lose to the Steelers, beat the Cowboys, Raiders, Ravens, and Chargers, I'm still in.
When did they play the Cowboys?
December 9th
Okay,
on
so
Disney Plus.
No, that was wrong. That's right. No, if they go 3-4, if they win 3 out of their next 4,
Okay.
Again, so if they lose to the Chargers but beat the Steelers, Ravens, and Raiders, you're in.
I'm in pending.
No, you're in. Come
In
on.
pending Cowboys.
2 division wins, you can win the division at that point.
I
still.
do not think you can.
I think you can. Ravens will tank.
Tank.
Ravens tanking by trading for Deontay Johnson.
Correct. Correct.
So again, cap or no cap, the AFC North getting 3 teams in. I'm going to say
3.
no cap.
get 3.
I think they get 3 teams in. I still look. The Browns and Bengals both are still in the playoff hunt. The Browns' chances are slimmer, obviously. I mean, you get to a 1-6 start, but you beat Baltimore this past week. If you beat the Chargers coming up this weekend and the Saints right after, Cleveland's right back in this thing. And the only way that happens is if what we've watched from Jameis last week is who they are, and we know that this team can put up points with the quarterbacks right. So we'll see what happens there. But no, I think the 3 that gets in that I'm willing to put money on, I'm still confident that your Bengals still find a way to get into the postseason. I cannot think of a scenario. When was the last time a quarterback as good as Joe Burrow didn't make the playoffs when healthy? I can't think of an example of that. When was you know what I mean? Like Josh Allen doesn't miss the playoffs. There's no precedent of that happening. And I'm not saying it can't happen to the Bengals because they have a lot of deficiencies. But as long as Joe Burrow is healthy and Jamar's out there with them, they're better than the majority of the teams that are left on the schedule. They have an easy schedule. I think Pittsburgh's a lock at this point, and so is the Ravens, barring any major injuries there. I can't think of a scenario, and maybe there is one, but when was the last time an elite quarterback finished the season healthy and just was on the outside looking in? I can't think of one. I just can't fathom that being the case with Cincinnati. I think they backdoor in. I think it's going to be a challenge. I think you guys are going to be nervous. It's going to be a roller coaster of highs and lows, but I think the Ravens, the Steelers, and the Bengals all make the playoffs this season.
I hope you're right.
I agree with you.
So there you go. All right, cap or no cap, we continue. Again, this is Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers. Cap or no cap, we talked about Anthony Richardson a little bit ago, but Anthony Richardson, cap or no cap, we will see him make another start for the Colts in 2024.
No cap. He's going to start again. He's going to 100%. He's going to start again. Anthony Richardson, again, this is a punishment for saying what he said, that he's going to take himself out of a football game. I think Joe Flacco is going to win a couple games, but again, once the losses start piling up for Flacco, it's done. He loses 1 game, he's out. If he goes 3-1 in his next 4 starts, Joe Flacco wins 3 in a row, then you have to ride with Joe Flacco. But I don't think Flacco is going to win 4 in a row. I don't think he's going to win 3 in a row. He might win Sunday. I doubt it, but he might. And once you do that, then we'll see. Then we'll have a discussion. But Anthony Richardson's absolutely going to start another game this season, 100%.
Yeah, no cap. Anthony Richardson, maximum amount of starts for Joe Flacco, I'm putting at 2. At Vikings this Sunday night, at Bills the next week. They will not win both of those games. And they'll go back to Anthony Richardson, hopefully for the Bills game, because if this is just a punishment, that would make the most sense. I'm definitely gonna say no cap here. Anthony Richardson will start the vast majority of the remaining games for the Colts.
I'll say 1.5. I think halfway through the Bills, they might bench him. 1.5.
Yeah, no cap. I think he does make another start this season. Maybe, and for some of the reasons you guys have already stated, can Joe Flacco, an aged quarterback, stay healthy for the rest of the year? Will they win consistently enough to where you don't start doubting whether Joe Flacco should be the quarterback out there? The bottom line is if they are losing games, I don't think it's going to be because of Joe Flacco. I don't think Joe Flacco's production is going to be a problem. I think it's just going to be the deficiencies as a whole with this team. It's a fascinating situation because there's so many moving parts to it. Again, drafting him with the 4th pick last year, knowing you were taking on a project, and then because he looks like a project, you get afraid to move off of him. It's a weird look for the Colts, but at the same time, if they go out there and win football games, we're going to forget about this here, not too long from now. So I think he will make another start because at some point, if the Colts get knocked out of the playoff picture, then you have to go back to Richardson. So yeah, I think we'll see him again, but I think the Colts are giving it the old college try. I think they are trying to go all in to win as many games as possible. Once they feel that they're out of that race, I think that's when they go back to Anthony Richardson.
I got a question. I got a question for you guys. Out of games where Anthony Richardson played the entirety of the game, because there was 1 game where he left with an injury. Out of all the games where he played the entire game, how many times has he thrown for over 50% of his passes? Completed over 50% of his passes? How many games do you think?
Oh, no. Is it low?
Well, he's 44% for his career, so it's not going to be more than half.
Yeah.
He's not completed.
What do you got?
He's not completed more than 50% of his passes one time.
And if we grade quarterbacks by box scores, then what is this show?
Then I'm just saying 4 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and he's looked bad. Like
he has not looked bad.
Say yes, he has.
How much
Jacob.
Anthony Richardson film have you watched?
I don't watch film, but I watch games. I still watch Sunday.
Anthony Richardson has looked much, much better than his stat line suggests.
He's looked better than that.
Exponentially better than his stat line
He's had
suggests.
one really good throw. He had
3 red zone drops last week. He had 2 40-yard bombs A.D. Mitchell dropped in the bucket last week. This guy has looked much, much better than his stat line has looked. He's not been a great quarterback, but he has given you
25
a little bit of a floor that you can build off of, which is what you drafted him to do.
There's 20 seconds left in the half. It's like 3rd down, and he still throws a pick, and it goes back for 6. So it's like I in his own territory.
But
when all you have to do
he's
is punt
not
it away.
supposed to be a good starter right now.
I'm just saying he hasn't been very good. He hasn't been good.
He's been much better than the numbers suggest.
I don't know how much better the numbers are as bad as the numbers could be. Like there's no you know what I'm saying though? Like it's like the numbers are woeful.
And if we're grading quarterbacks off numbers, then I don't know what we're doing here.
What do you mean we're grading them
You
off?
have to look at the games and watch how they transpire. It's not all about numbers. We have 5 Colts fans in the chat, and all 5 of them are saying AR has looked much better than that, and they're all mad that he got benched.
Okay, all right. I'm just saying. There's only one.
You can't just look at completion percentage and yards and all that stuff in a box score and tell how a quarterback's playing. You can't do it. That's not how you grade play.
But I feel like it is a little bit. Like,
Not at all.
Like yards and touchdowns, interceptions, and completion
You have
percentage.
to
I feel
watch
like
how
you
it
put
happens.
Okay, all right.
So are we in agreement that when receivers drop balls that kind of makes you look worse than you are? Like it would help if they caught them,
Absolutely.
right? Like,
And
okay.
they're catching them for Jameis.
I mean,
They're catching him
Cedric
for
Tillman's
Jameis.
catching them. The guy that's
true.
dropping them, they ship
That's
his
true.
ass to Buffalo.
He's catching
One
them for
catch,
Josh
3 yards,
Allen.
by the way.
Oh, yeah.
And
Well,
one
first
catch
week.
on 3
First week.
targets. First week, you know, whatever. It is what it is.
He doesn't throw to his number 1 wide receiver. He just doesn't throw to him. I just think it's strange. That's all I'm saying. I'm just saying.
I'm more Team Elliott on this than Jacob, but I
agree. I agree that
guess.
that stats aren't everything, but when every stat is bad, every single one of them, then it's just like, I mean, I can't. What are we supposed to say?
Well, when you're also pressured the most and have the worst receiving core in the league statistically, what does that tell you?
Okay, all right.
It all falls on the quarterback?
A little bit. I mean, a little bit it does.
I would heavily disagree.
A little bit it does.
Now I want Richardson back out there. Now I love when you two argue, and it's not me.
I'm not reading it.
It doesn't matter if he's
less
good or
heated.
this isn't a good
Less
or
heated.
bad situation.
Bushy is bad.
I think you signed up for that, but you signed up for that.
Correct. That's the whole crux of the issue. I'm saying that the Colts messed up here. The Colts are
Drafting him, you mean?
well, yeah, because if they drafted him and had no intention to believe in him after like a season, then yeah, it's less than a season. Then yeah, it's their fault. But I will say Anthony Richardson hasn't been healthy and he hasn't been good during his 10-game run in the NFL. That's all
You know
I'm
who the
saying.
quarterback taken after Richardson was?
Who?
Will Levis.
Will Levis, leader of men.
That's right, real good.
Will Levis stinks. Will Levis actually might be the worst.
He got benched for Mason Rudolph.
That's true.
Well, I mean, Elliot, do you know if he stinks? Have you watched the film of him? I mean, we don't
Will
know.
Levis. The film on Will Levis proves that he stinks. That can be confirmed.
Come on. Will Levis and Anthony Richardson are not that far
Anthony
away.
Richardson's much better than Will Levis. Much better.
I wouldn't say much. He's better. No doubt about it, he's better. But based on you have to look at stats a
Who would
little
you rather
bit, Jacob.
have, Will Levis or Anthony Richardson?
Anthony Richardson is not close, but I'm just saying.
You just said it's not close.
But I'm saying I'd rather have him, and it's not close. But I'm saying in terms of like which quarterback's been better.
The Anthony Richardson conversation is not one for the 2024 season.
Okay, all right. We'll wait. I'll wait. I'll be patient.
Well, they're not, so you don't have to, I guess.
Okay, that's what I'm saying.
Elliot, Jacob has won 90% of his arguments on this show using
No.
mathematical,
I've won them
formulatic
all.
equations.
I can't listen.
And now today, numbers don't matter. Stats.
Anthony
Richardson, I will die on the hill that he's looked better than his numbers.
Jacob, I agree with you. Stats don't tell the whole picture. But when every stat is so bad and it's laughable,
I will
at
die on this
at
hill.
some point, you have to be like, okay, maybe stats matter a little bit.
You're on clip duty after the show because I'm finding Anthony Richardson.
That's
film to
fine.
show you.
I want you to. You can't show me the one awesome throw he had. You can't show me that one.
I have 6 from this last week that were incompletions that were good throws.
6 good throws that were incompletions.
That's right.
Okay. He was 10 for 32. He was 10 for 32.
16 to 32. There's over 50%. There you go.
I mean, it's just.
Did you ever answer that
Is that
question?
a dog? Was that a dog?
No, I
heard
put
a
my
dog.
water bottle down.
Oh, I heard a dog. Go ahead. Sorry.
No. What did you ever answer the question? How many games under 50% did he finish, completion percentage wise? Did you answer that?
Yes, I answered that, Kenner. That was the whole point of the segment. I said out of all of his games this season, he has completed 5 of them. He has not gone one game over 50%. Not had
bad.
one game over 50%.
Anthony Richardson has an adjusted completion percentage of 51%.
I mean, is that good?
That's over
I
half.
can't throw over 50%. He does.
But that's not good.
So that means every time he. But hey, Elliot, when he drops
means
back, it's
8%
50%.
of his-
Elliot
that means-
completed.
What was that? What is going on? Is he gone?
What happened?
I think you
No,
shot at us.
I think you attacked us. What were
I
those
still here?
sounds?
I don't know. It's mean streets in Dayton. It's not as bad as Detroit, though. All right, we'll be right back. This is Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Chatterbox Sports on YouTube and ESPN 1410 Wing AM in Dayton. I mean, the rhythm of YouTube, the dance moves is just top notch.
I'm starting to get really annoyed with our music. We need new music. This music kind of stinks.
I like this music.
No, I'm out on it. I've heard it too many times. It's like when you hear like the alarm sound in the morning, and it's kind of like getting you a bad vibe now. Like there's one alarm sound I've used for 10 years, and now when I hear it, like my body like it goes into shock because it's like I can't hear this anymore. That's what our music is now to me.
And there's like a lot of shows out there that will keep the same music for like the entire existence of their show, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I guess that's what you're supposed to do, but I get bored very easily with I change my music constantly. I don't like the same music over and over, but I don't think I do it correctly. I think you're supposed to keep it the same, but I'm for changing it as well. So new music package. See, Casey's like, oh Jesus, now I'm gonna have to get down to do more work. Casey, what do you think about the music?
I think it's fine.
Casey is all in on the music.
Casey, what do you think about Anthony Richardson?
Do you want me to get in this conversation?
Well, I'm just saying, like Jacob
Yes.
said all of his bad stats don't matter, and they don't show the whole picture. Jacob watches all the film, and he's seen Anthony Richardson
I actually
play.
went and watched Anthony Richardson film just because of how bad the stats were, and I said
Listen,
he can't be this bad.
I usually fall under Jacob's camp that the stats usually don't tell the full picture. But I do think he's played bad enough, despite having some good film, to say that it's not going to be a fruitful season if you continue to play him. He's got to have more time to develop. Maybe he needs to sit behind Joe Flacco for a little bit longer so then he can get a little better. Maybe it's a team issue. I don't know. It's a tough question because some of those stats, they don't factor in whether the ball was wobbly or not, whether it was actually a good throw, or if the ball was in the dirt and it was still touched by a receiver. Like some of those stats are a little misleading, but I genuinely, from what I've seen on X, from what I've seen from other experts, they've said that the play on the field is much better than what the box score says. So I'm going to trust some of the experts, and I'm going to see what Jacob pulls up here after the show or on Box Lunch whenever he does the research, and I'll make my decision then.
Here we go.
The other thing, too, him getting tired, did you guys not realize, like, the previous 3 plays, he ran for, like, over 200 yards and pushed a 300-pound
I saw it.
guy? Like, that would make anyone tired.
The issue isn't that he pulled himself out, it's that he said he was tired. And that's just because he's 22 and hasn't played in the NFL for very long. Players pull themselves out when they're tired all the time, and quarterbacks don't run for 200 yards in 3 plays. That's why we haven't seen it.
I know, but I'm just like, he was only out for a play.
Right.
That
I know.
too, like I just
I don't think it was a
get
big deal at all.
Yeah, I don't think it's a big deal at all. So clearly the Colts pulled him for play on the field, not because he was tired. That's just lunacy. But I think that I think it's justified because that you just don't know what you have with Joe Flacco. The last 10 games that Joe Flacco's played in the NFL, he's looked pretty good. I mean, he's led the Browns to a playoff berth. He's currently third in EPA as a Colts backup. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how he does against some of the better teams in the league.
This is Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers. I mean, Anthony Richardson, he's getting a lot of love, a lot of praise today. I think Jake's the only one that's dying on that Anthony Richardson. And look, by the way, we don't know. Like
me and Orlovsky. The only two
Yeah,
people that
I-
still believe in Anthony Richardson.
I just think like right now you're benching him out of punishment. He's not gonna. Casey, you mentioned like he might learn something. He's not learning anything from Joe Flacco at this moment. You can't have your starting quarterback get benched and expect him to be like, all right, it's school time. Let's go to class.
They also don't play remotely the same kind of football.
Correct. Let's learn from Joe Flacco. I don't think he's going to get anything from this experience of getting benched. I just think that at this point you can't say what he said in the post-game interview. He said it. He's getting punished. He'll serve his 1-game suspension, and we'll see if Joe Flacco wins. If he wins, Flacco rides on. If he loses, Richardson's back.
All right. Well, and again, we'll keep an eye on that nonetheless. But we'll continue on with a little buy or sell. Or not buy or sell. I'm so
it's
sorry.
cap or no cap. It's cap or no cap.
We hipped it up today.
Well,
Cap or no cap.
I did buy during the segment.
That's true.
So it's buy cap or no cap sell.
Love it or list it.
We'll just combine them all.
Okay.
Smug or pompous.
How about that? Whatever you're feeling. Cap or no cap, the New York Jets have the worst quarterback situation in the NFL right now. Cap or no cap?
Oh, what's his contract? Aaron Rodgers has been bad. Let me rephrase. He hasn't been as good as they thought. You can only blame as many people as you can other than the quarterback for a little bit. Right now the Jets are hopeless. They have nothing and nobody. I'm trying to see who they have behind him. The Jets depth chart. Because as of right now it's certainly bad. The Jets depth chart, it's Aaron Rodgers and then Tyrod Taylor. Jordan Travis is a third stringer. So yeah,
Tyrod Taylor would be better than Rodgers right now.
Tyrod Taylor,
Maybe.
It's bottom like 3. It's bottom 3.
It's not.
Titans certainly have a worse quarterback situation at the moment. Raiders have a bad quarterback situation at the moment. Giants have a terrible quarterback situation at the moment.
Saints, Panthers.
Saints maybe. We don't know what Rattler is yet, I guess.
Well, Carr's starting when he gets healthy.
That's fair. Panthers is bad. Panthers is really bad. So maybe bottom 5?
Right around there.
Bottom
right
6?
Around bottom 8.
Aaron Rodgers hasn't been.
comfortably
Aaron Rodgers checked out of football when he left the Packers. So this was on the Jets. It was a bad move. They made the right move, in my opinion, getting him, trying to win football games. It just hasn't worked out, and now they're failing, and their organization has been set back.
The reason, and I think the circumstances around it make it pretty bad. So I think Denver's, sending Russell Wilson to Pittsburgh, and they're paying him to be a good starting quarterback for Pittsburgh that may go on to win their division, right? I think that, it's not just the quarterbacks that are on the roster, but the circumstances of kind of what dictates how severe it is. Cleveland's is a really bad situation, no doubt, but this is, a situation where every time Deshaun has become a huge problem for this team, from the contract just to the lack of his ability on the field. They've still been so good that but they've been good enough that you could throw a Joe Flacco out there and win a bunch of football games. You could throw Jameis Winston out there and win a big football game against the Ravens and probably win a lot more. The Jets are in a situation where I don't think you could drop a quarterback in there and they go on to win a lot of football games. They have a lot of contract concerns. They're an older roster now. They go and they get Devontae Adams, and that's made absolutely no change whatsoever. I think that the reason I'd put it there as one of the worst in the league is just because I don't think they have a way out. Cleveland is married to that contract with Deshaun, but they have so much talent on this roster. They could pivot and still win in spite of that. The Jets can't right now, and they have him for another full year as well. They can't void it till 26. I would say the Jets might be in a bigger pickle quarterback-wise than even the Browns at this point, and that stinks because I'm a big Aaron Rodgers fan. It's just not working.
Yeah, I really wanted him to work out. Really, really wanted it to work out, and it's just not, which is a shame. And this is a situation where I think if I were the Jets, I'd call teams. I'd call the Panthers about Bryce Young. I'd call some of these teams with quarterbacks that are sitting there. I'd call the Browns about Jameis Winston. I mean, I understand you probably can't pull Aaron Rodgers. You probably just can't do it. Fans will stop coming to games. He's what you've built this whole team around. It's just his buddies on the coaching staff and on the roster.
It's just his friends.
It's just a hangout session over in a MetLife Stadium. So you can't move on from him. But I still firmly believe that this Jets roster is one of the most talented rosters in the league. I think Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams, and Alan Lazard is one of the best receiving cores in the league. I think this O-line is fine when healthy. I mean, we've seen Tyron Smith struggle a little bit this year, but we know what he is when he's out there consistently. AVT got hurt, but he's one of the best guards in the league when he's out there consistently. This defense has good young pieces. Sauce has struggled a little bit this year, but no one's acting like he's not a top 5 or so corner in the league. There's a lot of really, really exciting pieces on the Jets team, and they're just unable to come together because of quarterback play. And I think if you put Everett in the chat says you put any top 15 quarterback in the league on this team and they can win, I think it might be top 20. I think there's enough weapons on this team that anyone in the top, competence level of this league could get some wins on this roster, at least more than they have right now. It's really unfortunate what's happened to Rodgers because he just doesn't have it anymore.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I think it's going to be a situation where he's going to play every week.
Yeah,
they're not benching him.
They can't.
And it's going to take a Cleveland Browns injury situation to happen. I know we got into that heated debate a couple weeks ago where I truly felt that I didn't feel like the fans were cheering the injury more so than cheering the fact that, oh man, look, now we can make a change at quarterback. I know, but I do think that you'll see a similar situation with the Jets at this point. Jets fans are pissed. They're not getting anything out of their quarterback right now, and they know that they're not going to make a quarterback change because Aaron Rodgers owns that franchise right now.
Right.
Every player that has been brought in, it's been because of Aaron Rodgers. He has a lot of power and a lot of sway. I just don't think anyone has the face in that room to sit there across from him and say, yeah, we're going to bench you for Tyrod Taylor. I just don't see that happening. So an injury would be the only way.
It will not. It will not
for an injury.
I was just saying simply what would improve this team.
In general.
They will not change quarterbacks. Aaron Rodgers will start until he can't walk off the field anymore. I think Aaron Rodgers might try to convince Woody Johnson and that ownership to give him an extension. Let him keep running out there.
I don't think –
He doesn't have a family and all of his friends are on the roster. Where's he going?
Maybe.
He doesn't golf. He can't do drugs all year long.
He's just going to go into the wilderness, and he's going to do hard drugs.
I think the NFL schedule sets up well for what Aaron Rodgers wants to do. He got all of his friends in New York City. They're all making millions of dollars, don't have to worry about cost of living. The owner doesn't let the GM do anything over Rodgers' head. Rodgers gets to make all the moves. He gets the whole summer off to go do drugs wherever he wants. It's a pretty good setup. I'm not sure he's hanging it up anytime soon.
Plus, the next election's not for another 4 years. So,
That's
I mean,
right.
he's bored until he has to run for president.
He's going to have to be VP.
Or vice president, yeah.
His career was much better when he was dating Danica Patrick. That's a fact.
No need to get political.
No one said it. Yeah, it's going
No need to get political.
Always political.
Always political.
Why he was talking politics?
How is Danica Patrick political? She's a race car driver. She drives race cars.
Always race with you. I tell you what, we'll step away for a few moments. This is Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube. We'll be right back. I don't know why it's funny. It's just
so funny.
What do you think about Beyonce?
I have no more comment. I have no more comment.
Lemonade?
Just get me to next Wednesday. Just get me to next Wednesday so all this nonsense can end. How am I supposed to know where Danica? How am I supposed to know about Danica Patrick's political beliefs? How am I supposed to know that? I don't follow Danica Patrick on X.com, formerly Twitter.
Is she your favorite of Aaron Rodgers' exes?
Who else did he date?
Like, he broke up with his family.
Yeah, it's probably
Divorced
my favorite.
them.
Yeah, he divorced his brother.
Yeah, I was a big storyline on The Bachelorette.
That's right.
Or
One of
whatever
the two.
it was.
I never know which one's which.
Yeah, and I don't really. That's the crazy part. I don't care either.
At all.
Not at all. The Golden Bachelor.
It's my favorite.
Kenner, are you going to apply for the Golden Bachelor here soon?
What's the Golden Bachelor?
I think he got to be like 60.
Yeah. How old are you?
Does my fake hair look like it's graying to you? No.
No, it actually looks a lot darker today.
It does look darker today.
It's the same color as it was yesterday. Thank you very much. And last week. I don't color my hair. All right. I'm not there yet. But nonetheless.
Can't prove it.
But no, I'm not going to be on the 60-year-old Bachelor. I do turn 35 on Saturday, though. So
Happy birthday.
Congratulations.
Mm-hmm.
I've stopped saying happy birthday, and I just say congratulations now.
Congratulations.
I think it's a good
living
bit.
this long.
That is a good
She's
bit.
like, oh, it's my 23rd birthday. Congrats.
Do we have to Venmo him? Because he Venmo'd me for my birthday. I think, right? Didn't you?
No, when you were on vacation.
Oh, it was on vacation. It was a vacation Venmo.
Say,
Yeah.
that's true, because I didn't get a Venmo on my birthday.
Okay. Oh, then never mind. I'm fine.
didn't.
I'm fine. I'm fine.
No.
No, we know
when
Karen
Elliot went
hates
on
me, though.
vacation. No, I do not hate you. When Elliot went on vacation and Casey went on vacation, I sent them. I sent him about $10 or whatever it was. I said, "Hey, get a drink on me and enjoy your vacation."
Well, the funny
a
thing
good
about
guy.
that, Elliot doesn't drink, so that was straight to a parlay.
He's right.
It was a
And
40
that's
leg
fine.
parlay.
I don't care. Just
And it
I'm glad
lost.
that you took it. Did something you enjoyed while on
That's right.
vacation. That's
I'll
all
have
that
to. I'll
matters.
Venmo you back. I'll Venmo you back.
Do not Venmo me back. Never mind. What, off the bench presented by United.
What a radio segment.
Yeah.
How long does this
No, I
radio
wanna
segment?
out-
How long is this radio segment supposed to be? Because that was a touch and go we just did, right?
We did that. So
This is
I've
all
been keeping
live.
track.
I don't
This
know.
is all
I-
live. This is great stuff.
I don't keep
No,
track
it's
when he's
fine.
on remote. I don't know how to do it. So
So the first segment was 15 minutes, the second segment was 18, and the third was 14. So we're golden. A 21-minute went a little long in segment 4 with 21 minutes, but we got it back up at 11 minutes in this last one. So
There we go.
my right state math says we have we wasted a lot of time, so about 9 minutes left as we sit here right now. But nonetheless, all right. Did you guys see Matt McClain getting more action over in center field?
Yes.
I know they talked about that. They put
That's
a bid out on that
terrible.
yesterday.
that's terrible.
You don't like that?
No, I don't like it. We have the one injury-prone guy on the roster out in center field. I'm good. No, thank you. DH him. DH him for all I'm concerned. Or keep him at second base. That's you get two options. I can't have Matt McClain run into a wall or colliding with another outfielder in whatever league this is, whatever fall or whatever winter league this is, and him getting hurt for next season. He needs to be healthy. I know he wants to play. He wants to get as many reps. He wants to be ready for spring training. I get all that. I can't have an injury, and I think you're more injury-prone in center field than you are at second base. So I'd like this nonsense to stop. Get him on second base. Get him in the infield. Let him play in the infield, and that's that. No more injuries, please.
I'm extremely pro trying Matt McClain in center field and seeing how it goes. He played over 100 games at center field at UCLA. I think he's the most logical player to switch positions because we have India at second who plays it at a relatively decent level. And if you're not going to move on from India, I think moving McClain is a much better decision than moving Ellie. And I think that's the thing that's going to happen if India stays, because I think it's more likely one of those two young guys moves than India moves, which I think is crazy. But I think that's more likely. And if I have to pick, it's Matt McClain to center field.
I just think the one guy that's had serious injury issues over the past 2 seasons, putting him into a spot where you can get injured like TJ Friedel did heading into this season on a routine play, I don't think that should be the method for success here. I think this is wrong. I'm against it.
Don't get it twisted. I want Jonathan India out and Matt McClain at second. That's what I want. I'm saying I think the most likely scenario at this point is that they're not moving India, because I think we would have seen it by now if they had that plan. And I guess we kind of did in the offseason last year, so maybe.
There's a chance we still get rid of him, but I don't know. We'll see.
Well, I mean positions.
Oh, India switching is not going to switch positions.
Right, so I think you have to switch McClain then.
No, if India, I think there's a chance India gets traded. I still think there's a chance that India might just be a bench guy, utility guy.
Okay, fair.
I think that's at least my opinion on it.
So it was Charlie Goldsmith on not too long ago. And he talked about this very thing, that Matt McClain had kind of let the team know that he's willing to be versatile and play different positions. And you're right. I wish I can't remember the league that they're playing in right now. But with that being said, there is limited opportunities out there. So what he had told them is that he is willing to play whatever position that he needs to play to make sure that he gets the reps and the at-bats and just the time out on the field that he needs. And I think they're just experimenting with it right now. I don't know big picture. Charlie Goldsmith's at the time when he came on with us did say to not look too much into that that's more the situation at hand for the league that he's playing in, more so than what they view him big picture. But I don't think if you were going to experiment with him in the outfield, doing it now is probably the time to do it. Just see what his range is, see what he looks like when he's out there. I don't think it's a bad idea. The bottom line is right now the Reds have a lot of guys that are going to have to be versatile and play a couple different positions. I don't know how many guys you have locked in at a certain position outside of Elliott Short. So there's going to be guys that are going to be playing multiple positions. You might as well try to figure out who's best where. And if there's a time right now, as we sit here in October, and of course the Reds aren't playing in October, now's the time to experiment with that and see what he does. I'm not going to overreact to it, but I will say, if he's good enough to play center, so be it. Elliot, the only thing me and you will keep disagreeing on is, and maybe you too, Jacob, I just can't keep operating under the fear of a player getting hurt. Because that's yep. But you're not wrong, by the way. You do want to take a player that's been injury prone and then go put him in a spot where the chances of getting hurt increase dramatically. I get your concern, but for right now, just from a pure talent standpoint and what he means out on that field for them, I just want him out there. I want him anywhere. I try not to base everything off of fear of a player getting hurt because I think it's obvious. Yes, he's good when he's not hurt. Okay, let's just I'm just assuming he's going to be out there and go from there. But you're not wrong for being concerned about it. I just try not to let it cloud everything I have to think about a particular situation with this. We'll see what happens because a lot of guys were hurt last year. A lot of guys were hurt. So there you go.
And that's the point that I think is always brought up with India is you have to hold on to him because you don't know if McClain can play 162. And I don't like talking about that. I side with you. I don't want to think about injuries. I want to operate as if our starters are going to be out there, and that's how I'm going to operate, at least in my own mind, is that these guys are going to be willing to play because injuries happen to everyone, and they can be as predictable or as unpredictable as they come. I mean, you could see it coming a mile away. I mean, who knows how many times guys have gotten hurt on existing injuries, and you could have predicted it. I mean, I could probably tell you right now, Nick Lodolo is going to be hurt at the end of next year, and it's not crazy to predict that. But you also could have freak injuries to guys that have played a ton of games their entire career and never been hurt. So I'm not going to rely on injuries to, figure out or how to construct the roster around whether or not guys are going to be hurt. I just don't like to operate that way. Is it smart? Maybe. Is it winning baseball to consider those injuries? Probably. But with a team that I know isn't going to spend, I'm not willing to buy backups, basically, which is what I think thinking about injury leads you to do.
It's fair.
Yeah, and because the bottom line, too, is when injuries do happen to these key players, there's not a whole lot of depth behind there anyways. Again, it's just but that's the concern when it comes to that, no doubt. All right, continuing on, just touching on a couple things.
We have some news on the main topic of the show. Shane Steichen has confirmed to the media that Joe Flacco is the team's quarterback one. This is not a benching for tapping out of the game.
Oh, wow.
Dumb move.
Oh, wow.
Dumb move.
All right. That could just be what he's saying, though.
Could be.
Could just be like what you say. But yeah, that's tough.
If you're going to punish a guy, why wouldn't you punish the guy? And I think part of that punishment is, hey, we're benching him because he said he came out.
Yeah, it's tough. I don't know. I wish he wouldn't have even just said that out loud. But he did, so I guess
10 starts, and you're benching him. You're benching a project top 5 pick after 10 starts to win 1 or 2 more games.
I don't think they think they could only win 1 or 2 more games, though. I think that they could win. I mean, I didn't expect them to be 4-4 at this point, considering the bad quarterback play that they've gotten to this point.
Anthony Richardson's 2-3, Flacco's 2-1. I mean, I don't know. The schedule's not easy. I don't think Flacco gives them a much better chance.
Last 4 games of that schedule are easy. They can get 9 wins.
And the AFC is just storylines galore. A lot of teams chasing that down. But no, and probably when he's addressing the media, he's going to be asked about it. I don't know how you get out of answering that question in a way that's not going to lead to more questions. If you say, I guess you could do what Mike Tomlin did. They never officially named. Yeah. They never really officially said Justin Fields was QB1. They just said, hey, he's the quarterback. He's starting this week. They could have said that about Flacco. You're right. They could have just said, hey, Flacco's starting this week. It's not a benching or a punishment. We just feel Flacco gives us the best chance to win this week, and we'll reevaluate the quarterback situation as the season goes on. So I guess there is some different things they could have said. Or
I wouldn't have said that. I wouldn't have said that.
Colton Melman, resident Colts fan in our chat, says Anthony Richardson was pressured on 60% of his dropbacks on Sunday. Can't wait to see 39-year-old Joe Flacco in that pocket.
To be fair, you said the same thing about Russell Wilson, and
I did say the same thing about Russell Wilson.
He's ducked it. He's avoided some contact.
I think Russell Wilson has the most passing yards outside of the pocket in his career, right? Joe Flacco.
We'll see what happens. If I were the Colts, I certainly wouldn't have said that because now you've just openly admitted to giving up on your quarterback. But I don't know. That doesn't
Do you
instill.
think that phone rings?
That doesn't instill confidence. It might.
I bet it is. I
bet
bet it's
it
ringing
does.
right now.
It doesn't instill confidence on a young quarterback. So like that, like when Casey said he's going to try to learn, there will be no learning here. This is not a learning moment. This is this is just what they did. They've given up on him. Tough.
Yep. All right, this is Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers. We are out of time, at least on the radio side, so we appreciate you hanging out with us. And we've got the Justin Kinder Show coming up next for our listeners in Dayton on the radio. But until tomorrow, this has been Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers. Look at that. 46 minutes in the first hour, 45 minutes in the second hour. It was a perfectly timed show. It took me a long time, but I'm impressed. I'm going to frame this. This is wild.
Good work.
Clock management skills are improved.
Good work. Good work. Would you rather? Let me ask you this: would you rather be the Colts right now or the Bengals?
Oh.
At this very second, the 3-5 Bengals or the 4-4 Colts with Joe Flacco. Playing in that division, playing in our division. What would you rather have?
Is anyone going to pick the Colts? I don't think any Colts fans would pick the Colts.
I think there's a couple people that would pick the Colts in that situation. I'm saying for this season alone. I'm not saying for the future. I'm just saying for this season.
Oh, well, yeah, the Colts have a better chance to make the playoffs than the Bengals do this year. No question about it.
It's fair.
Right now,
I'd probably take the Bengals.
If it's just
I'd probably
this
take the
season,
Bengals. I'd probably take the Bengals. Even with the win less, I'd take the Bengals.
if it's just this season, I just need to ask a few more questions because I want to pick Cincinnati because you have Joe Burrow, and it should just be as simple as that. But right now, the Colts, are they a better overall team than the Bengals right now, even without Joe Burrow on their roster?
I don't know so, but they play in the AFC South, which is much, much easier than the AFC North.
That's fair.
Is kind of my main thing there. I think the Colts have some good pieces. The defense is certainly better than the Bengals defense, but the receiving core is terrible. The O-line hasn't been great. The quarterback play we've talked about now for about an hour. I don't know how much there is on the Colts that are better than the Bengals roster-wise, and I would certainly rely on Joe Burrow and the Bengals offense over the Colts offense. But I think the AFC South getting 2 games against the Titans and 2 games against the Jags just gives you the edge.
Yeah. I think it's tough to lean Cincinnati just because at the end of the day, even with the deficiencies, and I think they might have more than the Colts, I'm still going to roll with the strength being their quarterback, and I think that's more stable than in Indianapolis at this point with that. So, yeah, Cincinnati, though, that defense. Ugh.
Yeah.
You said that you guys aren't going to play to cater to injuries. You can't be afraid of all the injuries for the Reds and stuff. Wouldn't you want to at least limit the chances, though? Like, I'm not scared of – you can't be scared that Matt McClain's going to get hurt. He has to play games. But he's now going to go to a position where injuries are certainly at greater risk than at second base. If he plays second base every day for the next 3 months until baseball starts, 4 months until baseball starts, then yeah, I'm fine with that as long as it's at second base. But moving him to center field at this moment when you have TJ Friedl, who just pretty much lost his entire season because of what happened before the year in center field, I don't get why you guys are on that side. I get not wanting to be afraid of injuries, but at the same time, you're increasing the risk of a guy that's been hurt twice in his 2 years to get hurt again before the season.
I think even if you talk to Francona or guys I don't think they think that way, though. And I think that's what's kind of behind the decision-making of this. Now, the best situation or scenario I can compare this to was a couple years ago with the Tyler Stevenson debate, when he was having a lights-out season, but I think he had 3 different IR stints where, again, playing the most physical position in baseball at catcher. And there was serious talk about, obviously him splitting first base with Joey Votto at that time because, hey, they wanted to get him out from behind the plate. But he didn't want out from behind the plate. Tyler Stevenson was adamant. He's a catcher. He didn't want anything to do with that. But, hey, he's been healthy since then. I mean, he's missed some time here and there. But overall, we haven't really talked about it since. I just think we're afraid because of what we've seen from the injuries that happened in the first season that bled into the second season. I don't know. You're not wrong. This is a very weird topic. It's right in the middle for me.
I was on the Tyler Stevenson move to first base train. I was absolutely on that because – you want your guys to play games, and if they're unable to play games at the position there that they play in, They can't play. They're useless to us. So, yeah, I was on the move that Tyler Stevenson trained to first. And to be clear, Tyler probably wanted to remain a catcher because he knows he is a far more valuable asset to any team as a catcher than as a first baseman. You get paid more as a catcher. You're valued more as a catcher. You're regarded more as a catcher. And he wasn't ready to leave that just for a couple injuries. And for the record, the Reds stuck with him at catcher, and it's worked. So maybe that's a testament to it. But I'm just saying, for Matt McClain specifically, I can't do it. I can't do it because there's also the like where's TJ going to go? If TJ goes to right field, Matt's in center, then we just don't upgrade the outfield really at all. Matt McClain, all that
that's a pretty drastic upgrade to the outfield. It's Matt McClain over one of those corner outfielders we had this year. Pretty drastic.
Yeah, but then you take away from the infield, then you have to upgrade the infield. So I'm saying you don't really upgrade.
If you don't move Jonathan India, then he's playing second base.
I don't think Jonathan India starts. That's where I think the disconnect is. I don't think Jonathan India is going to be.
Why is he on the roster?
Because I don't have an issue with him being a utility guy.
I guess that's the disconnect then. I would just never, ever invest in a utility guy of that level. Ever.
That's fair. But the Reds, do you think the Reds need a third baseman? I think they do. Who's playing third this year?
I would like them to get a third baseman. I don't think that happens if India's on the roster.
That's where I think we're going to see some moves made this winter that hopefully clears this all up. I'm hoping that's what happens. Am I going to bet on it to happen? No. But I hope that's what happens.
I think the Reds need to sign a corner infielder, whether it's first or third. One of the two needs to be locked up with a much, much better position. Much better player.
100%.
And if they want to put all their chips in the CES basket, I guess I'm fine with that. Invest in third base.
I'm not fine with that.
If they invest in third base, then I would be fine with that.
In that situation. But you have Candy to deal with now.
Who can't move.
You can't do anything. And we'll see. I just will see. I think you need a right fielder.
With how bad Noelvi looked at third, would you even try worrying about the outfield? Or would you just lock him in on figure it out?
Noelvi Marte shouldn't, as of this very second, shouldn't be starting on the Reds opening day roster.
I do disagree there.
I don't think Noelvi Marte. He didn't show me anything last year. He was terrible defensively,
and he shouldn't be guaranteed a spot. But I think right now he's the best third baseman on this team.
If they don't make a move, to be clear, he will.
I mean, today, now,
yes, then yes, he would be at third. Then he would be at third base. But I'm saying if you sign somebody, Noelvi Marte should not start the season on the opening day roster. No way.
Opening day roster, I definitely disagree. But opening day third baseman, I don't. He should not. That should not be your only plan. And if you're not going to go out and get a top market guy to start at third base, which I don't expect them to, at least bring in someone that's a respectable competition for him. Don't just hand him that spot after this season. You have to give him someone to fight against, someone to work with. It was nice to see Noelvi and Ellie and Candelario down in the Dominican with Francona.
Yep.
Good sign that they're all, working together, at least focused on the season and all that good stuff. So we'll see. But, a lot of questions about this Reds starting lineup, and a lot of it does stem from injuries.
If I were the Reds, I'd address three things. You need a right fielder. You need somebody at least on the corners. And then I would go out and get a starting pitcher.
I agree.
Those are my three. That's my Christmas wish list: outfielder, corner infielder, and then you have a starting pitcher. That's what I want for the Reds to do this offseason. That's all I want.
They already checked box one for your offseason wish list. They got Francona.
Yeah,
that was the
big one. That was a big one. Because
we didn't think that was possible.
No.
And now you got to continue. You got to keep the ball rolling. The worst thing the Reds could do at this point is stop this momentum because coming off one of the most disappointing seasons I can remember, we somehow have off-season momentum. The fan base is excited. Yep. There's some optimism in the city. Not something I expected at all when that season wrapped up. So they need to seize this opportunity.
It's clear you can't solely rely on the guys that we have. Rely on those guys. So you need to go out, make a couple more moves. You're going to have to spend $75 million, roughly $70 million. Somewhere around that number, I'd imagine. And you have to try to be competitive this season. Add a couple guys. You still have Ellie. You still have Matt McClain. You still have TJ Friedel. You still have Spencer Steer. You still have Tyler Stevenson. You still have guys that are your core. You still have your core. They just need a little bit more help from outside the organization. No disrespect to Reese Hines, but he can't play every day. No disrespect to Stuart Fairchild. All these guys, they can't play every day. So you got to go out and get some starting or some at least veteran starters that we can rationalize being on this team. We can't have Levi Jordan and the rest of the platoon guys from AAA come up and get meaningful at-bats. It can't happen anymore.
Random thing here with you speaking of injuries, like Nick Lodolo. Are we at the point? I mean, do we still view him as like a legitimate long-term starter in Cincinnati, or do they need to start kicking the tires in the idea of him being a centerpiece of that bullpen? Because he concerns me health-wise. If you want to talk about health, I'm more concerned about the health of Nick Lodolo than I am about Matt McClain and some of the others. I'm worried. What I'm most worried about is whether he's actually as good as what we think. Because we saw how good he can be in that stint that season, but again, that was 2 seasons worth, and he's been injured for most of that. I just need to know that he's actually as good as what we are awarding him with the idea of him being based on the limited time that we've seen him. That's my concern there. But Nick Lodolo, I'm more concerned about his health issues than I am the other way around.
I don't trust Nick Lodolo to have a healthy season. We're at that point, and I know it's early in his career. When he's been on the field, he's been dominant. He's been the 2 of the 1-2 punch of Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo. He's been very, very good. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I think Nick Lodolo is going to be able to have complete seasons. I just don't buy it anymore. You saw it this year. Once he got hurt, it was over. That second injury destroyed his season, and he was never the same pitcher. Next season, I think he's going to start out really good like he always does. He's going to have a month of elite baseball, and then at some point it's going to go down the drain when he takes one little injury spat. And that's what I think. That's what I think. Unfortunately, is going to happen. I really don't try to knock guys for getting injured. I try not to, but if you're not available, that's what I judge you on mainly. Nick Senzel was never available, not ever, never. Could I rely on Nick Senzel to be healthy? Nick Lodolo, kind of in the same boat. So we'll see what happens. I mean, that's why I think getting a starter from outside the organization is key. And I also think at some point the Reds have to start trading some of the pitching depth you have, at least not all of it, but there's so many young pitchers you have in the minor leagues.
How much pitching depth do we really have after those end-of-season injuries?
Yeah.
There's not a lot of wiggle room at that starting position anymore.
That's a fair point. But what happens with Graham Ashcraft? Does Graham Ashcraft start in the bullpen next year, or is he starting AAA?
I think one of those 3 guys is not on the Reds next year. Abbott, Lodolo, Ashcraft. One of those 3 guys is moved before the season.
That's fair.
I would personally vote Abbott.
I would vote Ashcraft, but
I think Ashcraft's the worst of the 3. I just think with what we've seen from Abbott is it's kind of he's going to have a great first 3 months and fall off the face of the cliff after July. And if you can get significant return for him, I would rather do that because what we've seen out of Lodolo, I can still just sit there and pray that he's going to be healthy at some point because he is really good when he's healthy. It's the other 2 guys, Ashcraft and Abbott, that really do, cloud my judgment because Ashcraft, we've seen him look like the best pitcher in baseball for like 3-4 start stretches. Yeah. And then he allows 20 runs to the White Sox 2 years ago. I mean, I know that's not the White Sox team of this year, but still not a top-level team. I mean, it's abysmal to see that kind of stuff, and I don't think Ashcraft's a starter, really. I think he is a bullpen guy.
I agree.
So if you can dump him with someone thinking he's a starter, then maybe that's a way to get more value than you think you actually have in there. But, yeah, I think one of those 3 starting pitchers is going to be moved.
By the way, Nick Kirby puts in the chat, I didn't see this yesterday. Mark Sheldon reported that the Reds are unlikely to sign any substantial contracts this offseason. There was another report that teams are losing or expected to cut payroll 20 to 50% due to what's happening with Bally.
So the Reds' payroll last year was
100,
so
106.
We're looking at a $53 million payroll.
Yeah, if that's what happens, then the Reds have no hope ever.
Ever.
So, I'm hoping that report is exaggerated. I'm hoping that's not what's going to happen. But to be clear, the Reds will not make the postseason with a sub $100 million roster.
No,
it will not happen. So if that's what's going to happen, there's almost no point to watch the Reds next year, other than Ellie De La Cruz.
Well, yeah. I'm just trying to figure out, how good of a hitter is Terry Francona at this point because
you're going to need him.
We might have to be relying a little player manager role at this point. That's unfortunate. I think we were all just holding out hope that wouldn't be the case. But yeah, I think we all kind of kept it in the back of our minds that that's a possibility that the Reds were not going to be aggressive. But hey, we'll wait to be disappointed in that until November, December when that time comes.
That makes this Matt McClain to center field move make no sense at all.
Well, if you can't increase payroll, then you have to have Jonathan India playing second, and you have to improve the outfield somehow. So you put McClain out there. I think it makes a little more sense.
Yeah, it's where I was
Get ready
leaning
for
too.
160 in Noelvi, buddy.
What a disaster!
I can't wait for Nick Martinez to start 4 games at the end of the year.
If the Reds don't make a move, if they don't make a substantial move, not one this offseason, I'll be disappointed.
What do you consider substantial?
A $20 million contract. A $20 million a year contract. If you want to say
See,
17,
I think you could get.
I think
Look,
you gotta go
Castellanos
lower.
was
Give
a
him a
15
chance.
Castellanos was a 15
Give him a
mil a year
chance.
guy, and look at what he brought to the table. I don't know about 20, but a 15 mil, that 10, you can get that kind of production in there. Castellanos was huge for the Reds, and they got him around that 15 number.
What was Candy?
18?
I think that counts.
Was he 18?
Was it a bad signing? Yes.
Was it
That
18?
level of signing I'd be happy with, though.
correct. Candy was a big signing.
So give me 17.
All right, if you give me a Candy player that's actually good, then
No. What would I always say?
what's that?
Process, not results.
Okay, all right. Well, all right.
Any $17 million contract. If the Reds go into the season with an under $100 million payroll, I am going to be distraught.
Oh, I'm just not going to watch the games. That's what's going to happen. I'm not going to watch
From the start, off rip.
Correct.
I don't think you would. I think you're lying.
Maybe I'm lying, but towards the end of the year, I won't watch. Certainly,
That's
when they're
right.
I didn't watch the end of this season.
You have no chance of competing at all with an $80 million roster or whatever.
No, nope, none, zero. Baseball
All right.
rocks.
It's that, yeah. I mean, Trace's argument about that stuff, too, he's spot on. We just try to put it off. We compared it to mid-major basketball yesterday, too, or college. What did we compare it to it yesterday?
College football.
College football. Yeah, we compared it to college football, where it's like, hey, if you're an Ohio State or Alabama fan, you're the Yankees and Dodgers. But, man, if you're the, I don't know. If you're the Illinois of the world, you're having a cute little season. If you're the Indianas of the world, you're having a cute little season. But, hey, Rourke, I mean, he's going to look really good in a Buckeye jersey next year, wherever else that can afford him.
right.
Who knows? But
Yeah.
all right.
No,
Well,
it's tough.
do you guys have anything else to close out today?
No, you're good, brother.
All right. Well, you
I was
guys
just-
enjoy
I was-
the rest of your day.
Yeah, you too. I was going to try to find this Sheldon report. I don't
Find
know
it.
where
We got time.
I'm trying to find it. Filibuster.
We're boxing after this.
We are boxing at what are you, 12:20, 12:30,
12:20, 12:30?
right around there.
Right around there. I can't filibuster anymore, Elliot.
Well, I'm trying to see.
Oh, my bad. Yeah. Well, you're looking that up. Did you see? I don't mean to jump to the NBA, but I am real quick. That the NBA did fine like $100,000 to the Sixers based on the handling of Joel Embiid.
Yeah.
So I know Elliot, you were
Good,
fired up about that,
because-
but yeah,
No,
it
great.
means
I mean,
nothing.
It means nothing. And that's the thing with these, they continue to levy these fines against teams for going against what is it, the player personnel policy or player conduct policy. I mean, it's not moving the needle. I think the Sixers are doing something that we're going to see a lot more teams do soon. And it's, all right, fine us. I dare you. Because I'd rather pay a $100,000 fine than not have Joel Embiid in the Eastern Conference Finals. So I'm going to rest my guys and take these fines on the chin and hope I'm healthy at the end of the season. It's crazy, but I honestly applaud these teams for calling the NBA's bluff. I know as fans we all want to see, more star players playing more games, but if these star players, if resting players in game 1 through 5 directly results to more star players being healthy in the playoffs, I'm all in on it.
I
Well-
guess I am too. By the way, I found it real quick. Last winter, the Reds spent north of $108 million on free agents like Martinez, Pagan, corner infielder Jamier Candelario. Although a payroll figure for 2025 is not known yet, it would seem unlikely that Krall spends big on the open market again. I don't see. I didn't take away that means the Reds aren't going to spend. I think that just seems like an opinion from Mark Sheldon, which is fine. But it's I don't think that means that they're just out. I think they're gonna make some move. I didn't take anything massive away from that quote, unless there's another one I'm missing here.
I don't think they're going to touch that 160 mil marker that they did back in 19, heading into 20. But I still think, I mean, if you go above what you had last year, if you get to that 120 range, I mean, there you go. It's an increase, right? I think what's the average? I think the average the league is spending in the middle is about that 140 range, and I don't think they're going to touch that. But I think 120, if they spend money, would put them there.
As long as they don't cut payroll, I'll be okay. Do not cut payroll. Do not do it. But that's it. Now that's it, Kinner. Sorry.
Who would you cut? If you cut payroll, who would you be cutting?
Well,
There's not many
you have a lot of
options.
expiring contracts. You would just not be filling those slots.
Correct.
The payroll's gonna go down from that at the start of the offseason.
Yep.
And then you'll have to. I'm saying if they
anyone
don't
is
add,
top
they
spend.
will be below.
But they wouldn't be losing anyone of substance, though.
I mean, Nick Martinez. I mean,
Nick Martinez.
Okay.
Some pieces in the bullpen. I mean, a lot of the big signings in the bullpen didn't even pitch this year. I mean, Pagan didn't pitch much this year.
Kirby believes that the Reds are going to make a lot of trades. I agree with him. I think there are going to be a ton of trades this season, and that's more than fine by me.
He says 3-4 players from the big league roster get moved.
I love it. I would love it.
That would be awesome.
I would love it.
Fun shakeup.
All right, good stuff. Little Reds talk in October, and it's not about the World Series.
One day.
Classic.
One day. Probably not.
One day. Bottom line is, I want to be depressed about all that, but like at the end of the day, Terry Francona, we feel like winners right now. That's all that matters.
That's right.
We feel they look at the White Sox. They just announced who they have as manager now. Do you think that those fans are feeling like, oh man, we're going up from here? No,
I really thought he was going to be our manager.
Yeah.
And the Reds could have hired a lot of Skip Shoemaker and others, and it would have been like, okay, cool, good. It's a name we're familiar with. He'll do something different than David Bell. Let's see what happens, and we would have moved on from it. I don't even think we bring it up. But at the end of the day, no matter how depressed or how negative we get about the Reds team, we keep going back to this idea of, well, Terry Francona he's here for a reason, so we can't get too down because he's not coming here to lose. So,
That's right.
We'll see. But all right, dude. Oh, last thing on the way out. So that 76ers article, the NBA fined the Sixers $100,000 not for public statements around the health status of Joel Embiid. So the NBA's investigation did show that the Sixers, they did not violate the player participation policy with Embiid's missed games, but with the public comments, that's what they fined him for. So technically, they haven't been found guilty of anything like that, of purposely sitting a healthy Joel Embiid out. But nonetheless, they're not going to put that out there because they don't want it to be known that their league is doing that. So who knows? But
Crazy.
We're out of time.
We're out of time. Crazy that they play a sport and they don't actually play.
They just got to shorten the season.
They just shorten
82
it.
games makes no sense.
Just shorten it.
Until tomorrow, this has been Off the Bench. Appreciate you guys. See you tomorrow.
See ya. Bye, Justin. Love you.
Love you too.